Here is the Daverhood with me, Dave Lefkowitz. Oh, no, the can't wiggle your fingers higher, more to the camera. Wow, this camera's over this way today. But hello, Dave Lefkowitz here with a brand new episode of Dave's Gone By. Potatoes here as well. Of course, my darling and adorable wife will be joining us to have a new episode of the show. In fact, it's our 696th episode of Dave's Gone By here, live on this Mother's Day weekend.
It's almost 700, honey.
It is. Like, our Tony show just might coincide, or our Tony show might be 699.
You have to call
like
the 700th show the 700
Club.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's cool.
Yay. Or we could go like 700th Club Sandwich. Or something like that.
Call it 700th Culture Club.
The 700 Club Foot.
Culture Club.
The Culture Club. Yeah, I'm digging it. Anyway, thanks for joining us, everybody. And we're here from 9 until 11-ish, as we are every week, Eastern time.
Until the Zuckerberg takes over the Wi-Fi universe.
Yeah, until that used guy breaks up Facebook, and then we have to find another platform. But right now, because I'm short, I'm on a platform.
No, you're not.
A cherry sort of platform.
You're looking very fly, honey. Show them how fly you look.
Pretty fly for a...
Tell me how you got so fly. Sing it.
Tell me how I... Oops, gotta zip my fly. Gotta get so
now
fly.
Work it.
I'm old and Jewish. I can't work anything.
Do some camp poses based on the Met Gala. Like campy stuff.
Oh, I wish I could dress like a hamburger.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
I just love the fact that if I dressed like a hamburger,
yeah.
Nobody would give a shit. Like friends would be like, oh, Lady Gaga does it on the steps of the Met, and this is like an artistic statement. You know?
I think that when you wore your potato onesie, you got a lot of attention.
I did.
You did. So don't be a hater. You did.
Did I wear it to Potato Day this year, or was I just dressed?
No, we bought it. Tony and I bought it on a post-Christmas sale at Walmart.
Oh.
Nothing but the finest for you, baby. Post-Halloween.
Post-Halloween, yeah.
So it was after
October,
November.
So if we're back in Greeley for next Potato Day.
You could just wear it. You used to wear it any time in the car driving.
Right.
You used to pick me up.
I can wear it to teach.
You wore it to teach, yeah.
I may do that. I may take the civil service test wearing the potato costume.
Too warm. It's not a summer. It's you gotta get a linen one for summer.
And where would I keep my number 2 pencils? Just like.
I think it's on computer, no?
Oh, I don't know. Probably.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Don't know. I'll find out.
Yeah.
Anyway, what we're going to find out is what this show is all about. It's called Dave's Gone By, and as ever, it begins with this intro. Which starts like this.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. There goes the Daverhood. And there was much rejoicing.
Didn't your meds kick in yet?
We got David Lefkowitz here. He's a Long Island arts guy. He's got his own radio show.
I want you all to really enjoy a wonderful program done by a fine artist.
A glorious thing of unparalleled beauty.
Dave's Gone By. Dave is one of my very favorite broadcasters, so keep on listening to Mr. Dave.
Well, there goes the Daverhood. Good morning, everybody.
Remember the speech pathology person said, "Don't do that. You're going to hurt your epiglottis."
Oh my! Where is my epiglottis?
You don't want to know.
Because it's not my uvula.
It's around your glottis.
Oh, okay. Because I had glottis and tomato yesterday. It was good. Thank you very much.
You don't like anything that comes from Mother Earth. If it doesn't have hooves or a beak, you're not going to eat it.
That's true. No, not true. I like grapes, corn, little nice things to eat. Lettuce, meh. You're right. A lot of I love a good fresh orange. That comes from it comes from a tree, which is coming from the earth.
I'm kissing our dog.
I could live without. Broccoli is okay. Could live without it. I do live without it most days. Carrots are all right. Yeah, I prefer tasty things. Directly tasty things. as
like
opposed
Belgian
to
chocolate.
yes, which
Like to tell them about the Trader Joe's peas.
those are so good. Oh, those are so
I want
good.
you to finish up the guacamole dip too.
Yeah,
the
but
chips.
here's the deal.
Yeah.
Chocolate comes from the ground. A cacao tree or bush.
Where's
what
the
is it?
sugar tree? Where's the chocolate liquor tree?
Sugar tree is cane sugar. Where does cane sugar grow?
On canes.
And milk? Milk is moo moo moo. Cows eat grass. Grass comes from the ground. So I eat very healthy when I eat chocolate.
Don't bring up milk.
What? No.
We have to tell them the conversation we had about almond milk.
Well, this is the thing. They apparently the
know.
FDA. We probably even talked about this on the show before, but the FDA has been trying to change the labeling of manufacturers, and they've been trying to make it illegal to label something milk if it doesn't come from an animal. So if it isn't a cow or goat, or my favorite case, a pig, a good
Pig milk,
tall
yes.
glass of cold pig milk is
Yes.
delicious. Then, like, soy milk is not milk, so they say. Nut milk is not milk. I'm not making this. This is not a joke or anything. If you read about this, the FDA has been trying for months now to try and have manufacturers label something that isn't animal milk as something else. So it have to be soy beverage, soy liquid, nut milk. And believe me, I've been making nut milk since I was 11. But wow, the time, stop tickling me. The kind of cashew milk that you get in the supermarket, what else? Almond milk. They're saying
Potato milk.
it's not potato milk, of course. Oh, milk me! Look at me! I'm huge. All right, potato. Here, I'll take some potato milk in my coffee.
It's called vodka.
It's like, all right, let's try this. Should give it an earthy flavor. Oh, that's nice. Hint of French fry in my French roast. It's nice. So, but anyway, they're saying that milk is the wrong word to use. And they have been countersued again and again by
Isn't it
people saying,
ridiculous?
yeah, because if you have...
said it. Nobody thinks that almond produces milk. You
Right.
said that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Not just I said it, but the courts have said, a judge said, if the first word before milk is almond, any reasonable, half-intelligent consumer is gonna realize that you can't. An almond doesn't lactate, and they literally said that you cannot milk an almond. But we know
this is what our court system has
Yeah.
become, right?
This is
it's
what
no
they're-
longer like it's like crash. It's like falls at work. It's like a car accidents, medical malpractice, and like names of almond milk. Like it's so sad. They
But
should have
what-
gone on the people's court. Judge Judy would have been like,
yeah.
"Are you nuts? Like, of course."
Or are you
it's
not milk?
Are
Yeah.
you nut milk? Yeah.
But here's the deal. It occurred to me, what would you call
Yeah.
a beverage? What would be a cool thing that would make people still buy your beverage if it was not called milk? Like nut beverage.
Because
Okay.
nut milk could let you understand that you put it in coffee, you put it in
Right,
cereal.
yeah.
Like, I don't know, what would you call it?
Nut lightener, which is, I guess, I don't know.
No,
like something Bruno would go through.
Esoteric cream, yeah.
Yeah, nut cream.
Not nut cream, I don't think.
Except in certain parts of Greenwich Village, nobody's going to walk into a store asking for nut cream.
I don't think that's exactly what you're going for.
Or soy cream doesn't sound bad, but soy cream would make you think it's whipped cream.
Soy cream would make me think it's some kind of tofu.
Or maybe that. Soy what? Soy
Product? I
product.
don't know.
And I do still have a can or a little can here
Yeah.
of one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I remember getting this. It was lunchtime. I was working at an office, and I went to the store to get like my ever so necessary Snapple to get me through the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And they had in the spam aisle other Armor products, and it wasn't spam, and it wasn't Wusubi or something else. While you're up, hon,
Oh, yeah.
can you go into? I think it's behind there. It's like it may be behind my deodorant, quite honestly, in the middle section there of that middle cabinet behind the
Oh,
deodorant.
yes, I see what you're going for.
Do you see? And this is real, and I think they still make this.
You have a bunch of things.
Okay, one of them is a metal tin.
Oh, you have. I'm going to get you all of them.
Oh, please. Oh, please. And I remember just standing there in the aisle, falling over myself for about 5 minutes. I had to buy a tin of this, and I brought it into the office, and I find it still riotously hysterical. So this is a beautiful thing. Oh, yeah, put them to the side. So I'll show, okay, here's your basic. I've had this tin for about 30 years now. It's probably still as good as the day that I bought it. But this is your typical Armour, Monty Python Spam. It's not, nothing funny about Spam until Monty Python got a hold of it. And now Spam is, of course, Spam, right? And then Van Camp's, not to be outdone, makes something called Beanie Weenie.
Oh, God.
I'm not kidding. I'm holding it up. Beanie Weenie, which is really another name for a condom, if you think about it.
What is Beanie Weenie? It's
Beans and Franks.
Oh, okay.
Franks and beans, right? And then there's this can. This is the greatest thing I have ever purchased, ever. And we bought 2 houses, right? And we've gotten amazing gifts and presents. This is real. This is absolutely real. Because this is what the FDA makes people call something that isn't really
meat.
But
it's got to be meat.
Well, there isn't enough meat in it to call it meat.
Okay.
Or Spam.
Okay.
This is, honest to gosh, Armour pocket meat food product.
It's America's #1 choice
of food products.
But what is a meat? What, say it?
Armour pocket meat food product. So it's pocket meat, but they can't just call it pocket meat because there isn't enough meat in there to legitimately call this any kind of real food. Pocket meat food product. And to make it even more disgusting, they put an olive on it. Okay. And there is meat in here. In fact, the first ingredient is beef. Is it tripe?
Hold on.
Joyce has glasses on. I do not.
I don't take them off. Beef tripe.
Yeah.
Beef hearts.
Oh, yeah.
Chicken. Partially defatted cooked pork fatty tissue. Water, salt, mustard, vinegar, dried garlic, sodium, something rubberthate, natural flavoring and sodium nitrate.
Actually, that isn't much worse than most hot dogs.
Defatted cooked pork fatty tissue?
Well, yeah. Which is nice is if you have tissue in here, you don't have to have a napkin. You just take the pork fatty tissue and wipe your greasy mouth when you're eating Armour pocket meat food product. It's amazing. The can is starting to swell after all these years.
It popped, I think.
When did I buy it? It was $1.19 back then.
Wow.
Which is a lot, it's a lot of freaking money for this, whatever this
euros,
is.
Yeah.
It got dented a bit, which is maybe why it's starting to smell.
Don't eat it.
And you can actually make meaty deviled eggs with this. It's America's #1 choice. So how do we get on? So, but you know that Armour would have called this.
When names are different.
Yeah, Armour would have
like
probably called.
How come they can call Spam Spam? It's not ham.
Well, Spam is a trademark. It's got to be like only Armour.
And this says partially cooked, ready to eat, cold or hot. Oh, fully cooked.
Yeah, actually, it's not Armour. This is Hormel. That's Armour. Yeah, but that's the deal. I imagine Armour wanted to call this meat spread.
Oh, God.
Yeah. There's a joke in there somewhere. I'm not going to make it. But, or something even more appetizing, like, I don't know, sandwich meat goo. But the FDA got involved and said, no, you can't call this anything but food product on there. And that's why they named it that. The most appetizing stuff ever.
It's just organ meat. That's what I would call it.
Well, try it. Well,
let me see what's in
hearts, yeah.
Beanie Weenie.
What's in Beanie Weenie? Well, I assume Beanie Weenie has more ingredients because it's beans and whatever goes into the Frankfurters.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah.
White beans, water, wieners, which are chicken, pork, beef, water, flavoring, sodium phosphate, sodium ethorbutyrate, sodium nitrate, tomato paste, sugar syrup, high fructose corn syrup, onion powder, natural and artificial flavors.
Actually, that's not terrible either, comparatively. Now, 20 years later, they probably put so many more chemicals in than they used to.
Follow me. I don't want the meat products to clog me.
I wonder if they have Armour Organic, low-salt pocket meat food product. And because they have that whole line of things for our more cultural, how do you say? Healthy, heart healthy. Like Armour.
I don't think Spam can be heart healthy.
Potted tofu, low salt food product. No, you don't think? You don't think that would be a thing?
I don't think the people go to these brands when they want that. No,
You might have
they're
vegetarian.
not going to Whole Foods and looking for Spam. You know what I'm saying?
I'll bet you in Hawaii they do. I'll bet you Whole Foods in Hawaii carries Spam of some sort or a Spam-like
Remember
product.
we were walking on the beach in Hawaii and they had Spam sushi.
Right.
What was it? Something Spam.
Musubi, wasn't it? Or
Yes,
musubi.
something,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. And then I came home and drove our Musubaru. Comedy right there.
You're weird.
Right here. Welcome, by the way, to Ian and Fred from Friendy and Dennis and John and all the other folks who are watching live on this Saturday, May 11th, 2019, to the 696th episode of the Dave's Gone By Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the stream. With me, Dave Lefkowitz, my darling and adorable wife, Joyce. Potato is with us, so we'll probably have some Potato Hotline in a little while.
Okay.
And here's what's going to be on the show. A very typical, normal, abnormal Dave's Gone By. No special guests except for Potato and my darling and adorable wife, Joyce. Just all the usual cool stuff we do, like Greeley Crimes and Old Times. And Potato Hotline, as I mentioned, Inside Broadway. Well, it's still a big, big time on Broadway, even though the season
Yeah.
is ending, the previous season, and everything's gearing up and ramping up for all the awards,
Wow.
the Drama Desk, the Outer Critics Circle Awards, and of course the Tony Awards, which will be happening on May, I think it's May 11th. Excuse me, June.
Yeah,
Excuse me,
they're always in June, yeah.
second Sunday in June, pardon me. And yeah, so there's stuff to talk about, and also I've been catching up with all these shows at this time of year, and I'm going to review a couple on Inside Broadway, including the Ferryman, which I was able to go back to this past week because they really, really want this show to get the Tony Award for Best Play, and also went back off Broadway to see a show that has been running for 15 years, the now classic musical Avenue Q,
Oh, wow.
which the reason I'm seeing it is it's closing by the end of May,
Wow. Why? Why?
because it's been running for 15
Do you
years.
think the topic matter got a little bit dated?
Oh, in some way. I mean, it's now, there's something almost nostalgic
Whoa.
about a show that opened in 2003. Because it first opened off Broadway at the Roundabout, the Vineyard Theater, and then moved to Broadway, won the Tony for Best Musical of that year, and stayed on Broadway several years. And then audiences sort of rang out, but they didn't want to close it, so they moved it off Broadway
Wow.
to New World Stages, where it's been playing for about 4 or 5 years ever since. But, you know, sometimes things, they run, and
course,
then
yeah.
they stop. You know? Like, for example, on that path at the moment, you've got Jersey Boys. Jersey Boys ran on Broadway for a very long time.
Oh, people love it. Yeah.
People love Jersey
It's
Boys,
nostalgic.
but it wasn't getting the Broadway audiences anymore, so they moved that to New World Stages off Broadway, where it'll probably run another couple of years, but it's not going to run forever.
Is
Yeah.
it because the Broadway theaters want the bigger shows, or?
Well, let's say if you have a 1,200 seat Broadway theater, okay, and
Yeah.
you've got, you're selling
Yeah.
not all 1,200
Like
anymore,
600,
you're
yeah.
selling 800, 700, and you're not making the profit anymore.
So
in
you
some
can't
weeks or
afford the
anything.
rent.
Yeah, you can't afford the advertising, the rent, the weekly nut, as they call it.
Do you think it's the show itself, or the theater people, theater owners who move it?
Well, theater owners have a stop clause. If a
What
show
does
is,
that mean?
it means if they're not getting enough dough, if they're not getting enough rent
They close
long
it.
enough, because let's say you've got a big blockbuster show,
Wait, yeah.
and a theater can get it, but instead they've still got your show in there that's not making the money it used to.
So do you think?
And all the Broadway theaters are also, they get money too. They produce as well.
Really?
Yeah. So
Wow.
everybody's got fingers in the pie.
Do they do well when they move off Broadway?
They can't make the money they make on Broadway, but at the same time, they don't have the same union contracts, so they're paying everybody a whole lot less.
Really?
Yeah, and they can keep a show going. They can make a nice littler profit on Broadway instead of starting to take
Off Broadway. Yeah.
off Broadway, instead of starting to take a loss weekly on Broadway. I'll take a profitable off-Broadway show anytime.
Does the audience follow them?
Yeah, and you get people coming back and get a whole generation if a show runs long enough. I mean, think about it. Yeah, if Avenue Q opened on Broadway 14 or 15 years ago,
Yeah.
there's people who are now old enough
Yeah.
to see that show. Because you got to be like 14 or 15 years old to see it.
Okay.
They were little infants
Oh,
when it first opened. You couldn't bring them.
you could, but it was when.
Yeah. Now they can go. Now it's 15, 16, 17-year-olds can go. So, yeah.
Is there going to be a trend for shorter shows? Because I read in the New York Times this morning, they said, "Are you tired of the three-hour melodrama?" That they have a series of shows in the Village that are shorter.
Oh, everything is so cyclical.
Yeah.
Everything. And as it happens right now, in fact, we have an issue, a thing that I'm not crazy about,
What?
where they want to keep you in your seat,
Yeah.
keep you in the theater. And so they have shows that are one act, right? They're full-length shows, but there's no intermission. Well, you know what? I saw a show last night,
Yeah.
and let me tell you, it held you.
Yeah.
But the show ran 2 hours, 10 minutes, no intermission.
Oh my God.
I imagine
would
they had to clean
die.
pee off the seats.
I would die.
Yeah. And you know what? If it were the demographic on this show is not, it skews somewhat younger. It's a very popular show.
Yeah.
But if you had a room full of 60, 70,
No, but
90-year-olds.
anybody, you gotta go. Especially people have wine,
Yeah.
they drink before the show.
Or
You gotta
people
be
who are
there.
running late and don't have time to use the bathroom
Oh my
before the show.
God.
What the hell do you do?
No, and then also the assumption is most shows have an intermission, so you're like, okay, I'll make it till intermission.
Right. Now, I'm all for a show that runs 80 to 100 minutes.
Mm.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Get her done. Don't, I want to make a train. Don't balloon the show to almost 2 hours if you stick in a 15-minute intermission. That's fine. But if you're going more than an hour 45, yeah, it's hard to concentrate.
I know.
Give people a break. They do that. They did another show I saw this week called, and I will review it today on the program, called The Ferryman.
Mm.
The entire show is 3 hours and 15 minutes long. So you get the first act, which is about an hour, and then you get an intermission. So everybody runs to the bathroom, everything's fine, great. And then you've still got 2 more full hours of show separated by a short non-intermission, where you literally have the ushers yelling at you, stay in your seats, don't go to the bathroom. They turn the lights on, you can stand up and stretch, but they don't want you leaving because it's such a hugger-mugger.
That's like...
Oh, we had one usher, she was a Nazi.
That's like the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory.
The same usher. She's like, 2 minutes before the show even starts, get your cell phones out. Turn on your cell phones. Turn off your cell phones.
That would be me.
No, I get that, but you don't. I mean, people kind of realize, ooh, lights are going. I'm going to turn off my cell phone. Not 2 minutes beforehand when people are
Remember when
still.
you didn't have a cell phone? You would have been the same thing.
I know.
You would have been that lady. You sure wasn't you without a beard?
No, but another show that I saw, I believe it was Burn This when I went to see that this week.
Yeah.
Genius. All you have to do, they were playing before show music,
Mm.
like music of the era, and they just before the show began,
Yeah.
they turned the music down, and then you hear on the loudspeaker,
Yes.
no announcement, no nothing. It was just, and they did it at the end of intermission as well.
Good.
That's all anybody needs to know. That's all anybody needs to hear.
Some people take their job like, God bless her. She's like a hardworking lady.
Oh.
She took that job seriously like a heart attack. She was lit. She was woke.
But she was ridiculously hard. I mean, there was a guy. He's like at Burn
This.
No, even the other. No, you're right. It was Ferryman. And in between that second and third act, when you don't get a full intermission, you just get like a 3-minute respite.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm going to the bathroom. I have to go.
Of course,
And he ran up the aisle.
Listen, you know what? I'll tell you something. The time that they stopped at urination, remember kindergarten when they wouldn't let you go? And you'd say, then people would wee their pants. They'd call your mom. You'd have to get new pants. Let people go. Like,
let my people
I'm
go.
sorry. People paid like almost $200, and you're going to make them sit in their own human waste? I mean, I think that's...
There are some people who would pay $500 to sit in their own
You
human
know what I'm
waste.
saying? Like, they're paying a lot of money for this. It's not...
Yeah.
It's not
No, but I understand the impetus. If you have a second intermission, right, that you can't just... 3 minutes won't do it. 5 you need... Because they're
So you know what
woefully inadequate bathrooms.
They shouldn't make it an intermission. They should just lower the lights, keep it dark for 10 seconds, and then go to the next scene.
Well, they need more time. They need to set the reset
Yeah.
and get people in place and change costumes.
But
and
that's
stuff.
their
Yeah.
problem because they didn't sketch out the changes in the
Yeah.
scenery.
Or they don't want to pay extra overtime union costs by making a 3 hour and 15-minute show a 3.5 hour show.
Didn't you go to something that was like 2-parter or 3-parter?
Harry Potter.
Yeah, I mean, so like they could. Why don't they? If it's going to be so long, just do that.
Well, Harry.
You can't have tea. The dog wants to drink tea, honey.
Well, with the Harry Potter show, though, each part was under 3 hours long, and there was an intermission.
Yeah.
So you didn't sit for more than an hour and a half. And this is built into the show. Fiddler on the Roof
Yeah.
has a very long first act. It runs more than 90. It runs about 100 minutes first act. I don't know if you want to put. If you can put a little, but after an hour and 40 minutes,
You gotta let people go.
They do.
You know why?
Because they're leaving on a Tevka.
Prohibition.
Oh,
Prohibition.
that's brilliant. Let me tell that other thing that Joyce came up with this week. See, Joyce and I have had this thing where I'm supposedly the funny one. I'm the comic, the entertainer, the tumbler, the witty guy who writes plays and has done a modicum of stand-up comedy and a lot of comedy writing and stuff. But but there are days of the year, every once in a while, where she just knocks it out of the park. And she is far and away the funnier, wittier, cleverer one. Okay? So I'm in New York City this week, just coming out of a show. Of course, it was probably Burn This on the Wednesday matinee. Just strolling, trying to get past the crowd, waiting for autographs of Adam Driver and Kerry Russell and what have you, and just moseying along and watching the traffic. And there's a taxi cab.
It's an exhibit you saw.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I just see a taxi cab among the other cars. I can't really move because there's traffic. So immediately, I'm like, I got to take a picture of this taxi cab. And I did. Because the taxi cab, a typical yellow New York taxi with a billboard on top of it. If you know New York cabs, most of them have signage on top of it because the TLC is making so little money now, thanks to Uber and Lyft, that they'll get money any way they can. So they lease out space on top of the cab for people to advertise. But only in New York, kids, as Cindy Adams would say, only New York. Yeah.
I'm getting the picture.
Can we show it? Because I guess I can show it on that thing. Let me describe it first, and then I'll show it to prove it. I see a taxi cab, and all I see is, with black letters on white, on top of the taxi, is the word Auschwitz. Only in New York. You're just sort of moseying along, a cab comes along, and Auschwitz. And it wasn't until like 5 seconds had passed me staring at this thing that I noticed the right hand, like the last third of the sign says, oh, it's an exhibit at the Jewish Museum, or it must be the New York Jewish Museum. You see right there, Auschwitz. And I'm thinking, okay, all right. So immediately I find this, I take the picture and I text it to my darling and adorable wife, Joyce, because I'm like, this is New York. This is so, there's a taxi cab with the word Auschwitz on top of it. And within seconds, Joyce texts me back and she says, well, not to be morbid, but at least it wasn't on a train.
It will be. You know it's going to be on the buses and the LIRR. You know.
No, but imagine just the horrors that is the New York City subway system.
Yeah.
They just signs plastic across Auschwitz.
Or the railroad or Metro North. It's going to be in the train, of course.
I mean, there's a very special terminal now that they're constructing near the Second Avenue subway.
Well, one of the girls at the gym just got back from there. The actual camp. So.
She went to Auschwitz? Wow.
Yeah, a lot of people do the.
Did she have fun?
What do you call it? The Day of Remembrance or the.
Oh, Shoah.
Yeah, but but they go back to
Shoah. She did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what did she do? Did she like it? Was there swimming?
Her dad is from not Bulgaria. Her mom is from St. Petersburg, and her dad is from
Florida.
No, another place in Russia.
Oh, okay.
I want to say Bulgakov, but that's the writer.
Right.
Yeah. She went back.
Yeah, but did she have any experiences? Did she get a crawler?
I didn't ask her.
Okay.
I think she saw it on a cab.
Speaking of where we came from, and this is the other thing I want to take the early part of the show to talk about this week. And by the way, it's 9:30 in the morning Eastern time here in the Daverhood for the Dave's Gone By Facebookio podcastio programio of the stream. I probably need a heavy light on my head. So sorry about that. I might all my baldness is showing. Oh well, nothing I can do about it. Don't be distracted.
I don't have any powder. You should powder your head.
I don't gotta powder my head.
You should,
I don't even powder my own bottom.
I know.
Oh, thank you there. So, where we came from, Joyce, weeks ago,
Months ago.
did her 20 months ago at
Mommy
this point.
just did it weeks ago.
Yeah. Did the 23andMe. Has everybody done this at this point? If not that, Ancestry.com. We did 23andMe to find out, ooh, where do we come from? Kind of cool. What are you? What's your genetic makeup? What is your history? What is your heritage? But Joyce did it first because she's always the intrepid, brave one to go first in all things. And what did you find? We talked about this.
My origins are in the Sudan. I'm Sudanese. That's like the generation.
Well, way, yeah.
And then I have Greek, Balkan, Spanish, Ashkenazic Jewish, German, and Italian.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, but the major
Oh,
percentage.
Portuguese.
Italian is the top major, or
I think German.
Oh,
and
German.
Italian, yeah.
German Italian, because you were assumedly Tyrolean, which is high northern Italy,
Yes.
lower Germany, depending.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So and that bore out.
Yes. Even with my mother is more Spanish and Portuguese than me, but everything else were the same.
Okay. So did you learn? And you keep checking 20 because they keep adding more
updated,
stuff.
yeah.
So what did you learn recently? Some stuff, didn't you?
The different towns. They named the different
Oh,
towns. and
okay.
stuff, yeah.
All right. So you did it, and then when we were over for some holiday, was it a birthday?
I don't know.
It was just a few weeks ago. We went to your folks, and we decided to do the 23andMe, her parents, and also me. Get her done. Open the kit, label it properly. We all did the spit thing,
Yeah,
which was
my dad has to do it again because it didn't work.
her father drooled so far past the line. Meanwhile, her mother's taking literally a half an hour to work up enough spit to fill it because you're not allowed to drink beforehand. I don't get it. You can't even have water before. You got to make your own drool. So we're sitting there at the table, and I'm going, oh, God. I believe I just did that on camera. But her mom's like, not microscopic bits of drool. Her father makes tons of drool.
But he has low DNA count. They have to do it
How do
again.
you have low? Everybody's got DNA. How do you have low DNA count?
I think they just want more of it.
Maybe the real idea behind 23andMe is making a race of super master clones out of people's DNA stuff.
Yeah.
So they need more of your dad to make more dad-like, because he was a strapping, red-headed, good-looking. They don't want more of me. Me, they got plenty of little wretched Jews.
Yeah, but you're also not interesting genetically.
Well, no, I'm not.
You're not.
I am basically not.
No. From the
So we all sit in.
1600s, you're the same.
1600s?
Yeah, that's what it said.
I didn't even get that on my SAT. What was I? Oh, well, here's the deal. So spend whatever it is, 50, 60, 70 bucks on this kit.
No, we get it on Black Friday. We never spend that much.
No, I think it was 60 bucks a person, or maybe 50, because that was a sale.
Mm-hmm.
If you got three or two or three or more.
Mm-hmm.
So for 50 bucks, I'm like, okay, I'm going to send it in. I'm going to find out some special stuff like where, because I know my family generally Russia, Poland.
But you're Neanderthal.
Not much.
Like me. You're a little bit more, a little bit less than me.
And I asked also my parents, or
Yeah.
Mom, if she wants to do the 23andMe. I know where I'm from. I know. It's nothing I'm going to learn. I know exactly where I'm from. Okay, fine, don't. But I do it. And it confirms. She knows exactly where she's from. My test comes back this week, and it says that I am 99.4% Ashkenazic Jewish.
Yeah, but it doesn't say that you're Austrian or Hungarian or Polish. It can't predict. It'll eventually predict the
I
countries.
hope. I mean, tell me something that somewhere, that 0.6%, somewhere there was like a Cossack who raped a family member.
Yeah, but that's why you're inbred.
Well, yeah, that's why I've got the hair lip, perhaps, the cleft palate, male baldness gene, shortness. I don't know.
One large testicle.
Well, the extra large left testicle that my wife was kind enough to mention. Thank you. It just makes me a bowler.
The
But
back hair.
I don't have back hair.
I can't see.
I do not. I'm not like an Ernest Borgnine creature.
You're like a gorilla.
I am not like, look.
And I'm kind
I
of,
got even no chest hair.
mad at you because I had one large black hair sticking out of my cheek and you didn't tell me.
When was this?
The other day I looked and I plucked it. I was like, why didn't you tell me?
I didn't see that.
Okay.
You know what I was figuring out yesterday?
What?
When I was watching the show at the theater? I'm like going like this because I know there's going to be a gunshot at the end of the show.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to feel, and there's like ear hair on this part of my ear.
Yeah, you have it in there in the top.
Yeah, man.
Remember
And I'm
I
tugging
shaved
at
them?
it.
Yeah.
Can you see this?
You also have it on the top near your.
I grow them here,
Yeah.
but this one I started because I was starting to pull it. It was like
Yeah,
it's like a
I used to
gentle
shave
harp
them.
plucking
I used to
mechanism.
shave them, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, look, there's no hair. Look, this is my chest, ladies and gentlemen. There's
You have a lot of-
nothing.
you have a lot of moles,
I
too.
got moles. This is true. A couple of beavers. Well, wish I had more beavers in my life, but you know, ow, 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 ow.
You're so naughty today.
Just teasing. But I'm just saying, and I know 23andMe will come up with more stuff.
Yeah, like Ancestry.com, man.
And I didn't do the health stuff, which I guess I should have, but I'm not having kids. So it doesn't matter what I am or I'm not going to pass down. And if I get a disease, I'll get it. It won't matter to me. Oh, I might get Tay-Sachs. I mean, you know, big fucking deal. So I'm not worried about, I mean, it would be a big deal if I got Tay-Sachs.
Did you look at, you got to look because they'll give you updates.
Yeah. In fact, I checked this morning.
Yeah.
So here's so far the really interesting stuff beyond the 99.4% Ashkenazic Jewish that I am.
Sad.
I am of the K1A1B1A haplogroup.
Oh, good.
Did you know that? I'll
Let me
bet you
see,
didn't
let
know
me
that.
see.
I'm telling the
Oh.
universe here, which is basically tracing back where I came from.
Yeah.
And me, like every other person in the universe, eventually traces back to one woman in East Africa.
No,
on
I'm
my
in
mother's
the
side.
Sudan. I'm in the Sudan.
Whoa!
I'm Sudanese. It says that my origins are Sudanese. I'm from a different part of Africa.
Is Sudan in East Africa?
Let's look on the thing.
Here's your phone. So yeah, apparently this one woman fucked around a lot because there were other things, but they all died out and stuff. But the
Wow, that's such
matrilineal
fun.
side was this one East African woman. Here, she's going to check on her telephone. The haplogroup.
What part of Africa is the Sudan? North Africa.
Ooh, you're from North Africa. I'm
telling
from
you.
East Africa. Look at that.
I am from Sudanese. I want to see.
Yeah.
I need to go to Sudan and see my people.
Actually, you have so much allergies. You should be taking Sudafed.
I need something. I do. That's very true.
Sudanafed.
Oh, it's giving me a map to drive to the Sudan.
Oh, you're
I
gonna
don't
drive
want
to the
that.
Sudan,
No, I
yeah.
don't want from King Cullen to the Sudan. I mean,
It's a rather sandy.
That's a long trip.
Yeah.
Wow, look at where my people be from. What else did you learn about you?
Well, on the
See,
patrilineal.
look, I'm in the
yeah.
middle.
Okay, well, middle. Well, that's not north. That's sort of
I love it.
middle. It's almost Middle East, which is where I want to be from.
Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Ooh. But that's on the matrilineal side. On the patrilineal
Your
side,
dad
I'm JM410.
What does that mean?
I have no friggin' idea, but it's also an African guy that they
Oh,
can trace
okay.
people back
Very
to. So
good.
apparently, somewhere in my makeup, millions of years ago, or tens of thousands of years ago, Africa, migratory. So there's some African
I'm
in
from
me,
the Sahara.
which is why I have a little bit of rhythm.
Your dance class, remember how you loved everything about your theater degree you got at UNC.
Except
you dreaded. I never saw you. You had anxiety. You were like sweating. You had like nightmares. You were so afraid of that dance class.
oh, I was a
And that was
disaster.
you did not like it.
Yeah, no, I just absolutely not capable of that. Someone just gave me a thumbs up saying that I can't dance. Thank you very much. And by the way, welcome to Dennis and John and Paul and Deirdre
Maybe those are other people like me from the Sudan.
and Jeffrey. It could be.
And it's a Muslim country. Maybe that's why I have an affinity.
Maybe they were taking a Sudan's class. Sudan's her phone. All right. So anyway,
Are you drinking? What are those people saying?
they're nothing. They're just giving me thumbs. Oh, Jeffrey from of the UNC that didn't
Tell
have a
him-
shooting last week.
Tell him I like the way that he spells his name.
Oh, the weird way
Yeah.
of spelling Jeffrey.
And tell him I've been on like how many doctoral committees and I have another one. I have one next week How many did I do? 2 or
You
3?
did well, at least 2.
At least 2, and I have 2 more. So I'm wishing him doctoral.
Yeah, well, I think
Final
Jeff, did you
defense
get
power. Final defense power. If he didn't.
How are you doing, Jeff? I mean, we were going to work on it this summer. Did you finish your dissertation, and how's that going, by the way? And then how is UNC? Because it's a clusterfuck, basically, that we're coming back to. So, what else? But as I said, the one thing
Why
that
don't you drink some beanie weenie though?
the one thing that our UNC can say is no shootings with, as opposed to the other more famous UNC. Then they've got to change their sign. They got to erase no mass suicidal murders in the past
telling you,
4 days.
The worst thing I had when I was teaching at Pace, I told you. So Pace is
Pace.
near Ground Zero,
Oh, yeah.
and it wasn't another like any sort of attack or anything,
Mhm.
but there was a baseball player who flew a helicopter and he flew into a building.
With a Yankee.
Yeah, and so I'm on the elevator. I think I was grading or it was finals, and nobody else is in the elevator. Now, in that building, the guards know you because they let you in. So I said, "Hey, how you doing? Get in the elevator." Now, I once was stuck in an elevator at TSS in a department store.
TSS.
In a department store parking lot, which
Yeah.
scared me. And my dad physically opened the elevator with his hands and closed.
That's why they want his DNA to clone him.
But now, like the other sheet, now I'm in the elevator. Okay, it's a big building. I think I'm going to like 5th or 8th floor, and everything shuts down. And they say, "We think there's been a terrorist attack. We shut down the elevator." And then the guard, God bless him, he gets on the intercom. He's like, "Joyce, are you still in the elevator?" I said, "You know I am, because I'm going up to the 5th or the 8th floor." He talked to me for a half hour until they cleared they found out it was just an
idiot in a plane.
Somebody who crashed it. It was an accident. And then they opened the doors. But I think I lost about 50 pounds of sweat being in a dark elevator.
Yeah.
And the guard was like, "Hey, how you doing? What's up?"
Yeah, that's great. That's really cool.
I was so scared.
Wow.
With nobody else,
But I mean, but that wasn't a shooting, so that was just an accident in the
but they
beginning of
treated
the plane.
it was complete lockdown. So when they thought it was another attack, they had a plan for it. So everything they did went in place.
See, North Carolina isn't used to that sort of thing. If it happened in Texas or Colorado, classes would still go on. You could be in the next classroom. You go, pow, pow, pow. It's like, can you get your cell phones, please? We're doing physics now.
We have an exam. Finish your exam.
It's like, so you're late. Could you put the gun down?
No, all
take
you
your
do
seat?
is you press the panic button. It locks the students in. You're like, "Keep working."
Because I've told you, every time I fail a student, I'm always wondering, am I going to be sitting in the local diner one day? And it's like, I remember you. You kept me from graduating that year.
Yeah, but I think you misspoke because you don't fail people. People fail themselves. Like, this is my thing. It's not like we are this omnipotent, grading human. It's that it's very simple. It's like, here's the path to your grade. You do these exams, you come to class, you do these things we ask of you, and you could pass. If you don't do them, guess what? Free will, free choice, you fail. It's on you. It's on you.
Right, but they will say, "You graded me unfairly."
That's all just backwash.
I mean, that's why all tests should be multiple choice or something, because when you start dealing with essays or long written answers.
But then you could say multiple choice are geared for certain ethnic groups. They have certain implicit bias. I mean, you could always find some flaw in the test. I think it's like, look, this is the deal. It's like I was telling your dad's friend yesterday. Syllabus is a contract. You read it, you agree to it, and you move forward. And if you don't do it, take it again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Repeat, delete, do what you need to do, just,
And it's true, when I was doing more grammar in my class, I would do multiple choice.
Yeah.
And it's like, some of the questions would be like, when a white person goes and uses don't. Yes. Because I would throw that in there. Yeah, that's good, yes. Yeah. So I guess I had some intrinsic bias I wasn't recognizing.
No, but I think that the things that I hate the most are that people argue in emotional arguments. They want to pass because they need to. Well, do the work. And that people are not rational. Like, you messed up and you are not going to pass, and it's all on you.
Nothing, and half the time, when I'm going to fail people is because they were absent, and then their absences were racked up, and they didn't get extra credit by going to the writing center.
Getting dressed or getting some semblance of dress in your jammies and bringing your butt and sitting in a chair for an hour. Not too much to ask, right? Not too much.
Well, if you have to listen to me for 75 minutes, it is too much to ask for
and
certain.
If they have medical or other problems, do it online. They now have your English classes online in summer. They're doing them online.
They should get me to teach them.
Yes. So you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have any. I think in this world, people
Mm-hmm.
have lost the ability to be self-reflexive and to take personal responsibility.
Well,
Own it,
well,
you know, own it.
Hold on. Let's see. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm
own
very
it.
self-reflexive.
Like, you know, own yourself, good, bad, and different. Claim it. Yes, this is me. I oversleep and I miss class. It's me. Take responsibility for your actions.
I agree.
That's what you need.
I agree. But you still don't. And okay, if students would listen to that, but some don't, and sometimes the crazy ones don't. You know?
Well, then I've walked many a person to health clinic. You've got to, if people are really homicidal or suicidal, they need intervention.
Well, yeah.
They need intervention. And I think you could recognize it. Ever since I was at Fordham as a grad student, we've had people who we identified as needing some
The ones that
extra
just drain me
Yeah.
and I get sick of are the ones who are just problematic. They miss classes, they're failing, and then they have been intervened, and then they come and they sit and they say, what can I do to get back on track?
Yeah.
And then a week later,
Yeah.
I mean, I spent like half an hour with them in the office, outlining what they can do,
Yeah.
and you know, hearing their problems,
You just write
and being
it.
father confessor
You
and
can't be,
helper.
don't be an emotional. Don't be a woman. I hate
But they've wasted a half hour of my
Yeah.
time when they're just going to backslide
Well,
and fail out anyway.
because people are flawed, you know, and a lot of people are not self-actualized and they don't have their stuff.
Oh,
together.
I've never been
And they
self-actualized.
never will. So people never will.
But I also got A's and B's in almost every class I ever took.
But what does it matter in this?
Yeah,
in
that's true.
the way the world is now, don't matter. If you're aggressive, loud, and pushy, that's what people do.
Well, maybe that's what needs to be taught then. Instead of
Aggressive,
sitting
loud,
there
and
and taking notes and trying to memorize crap and synthesize stuff, how to be a person. I had a person like that. I had a person like that last night, as a matter of fact. I was killing time
Yeah.
in Kmart. One place to kill time, right? Or it was after Kmart. I was in Walgreens in Penn Station,
Oh yeah.
as a matter of fact. And so I'm looking around. I'm trying to see if there's a cheap beverage for me to grab because I don't carry Arizona cans anymore.
Beverage product.
Yeah, beverage because they don't have my little 99-cent
You know
cans.
what you need to do? You need to go upstairs to Amtrak and they have it.
Ooh.
Yeah, if you go upstairs to this is what I do. So this is my secret. Don't tell the listeners that even the bathroom at Penn Station, if it gets full, if you go upstairs to the Amtrak deck, they have a bookstore. They have little delis. They have,
Whoa,
they
dude!
have a nice bagel place. It's gorgeous. Yeah.
Ah,
Nice bookstore. Yeah.
all right. If there's time, a lot of times there isn't the time to.
Chabro, I think. All that.
Yeah. So, but yesterday I had the time to do that. So I went into Kmart for a bit. I got our new friend, which we can show up in a little bit.
I have to figure out my schedule today.
Yeah, but also there was still time, and I wanted a beverage, and neither Kmart nor Walgreens anymore, Dwayne Reed, carries Arizona cans anymore. The 99, because I'm sure they don't make any money on the 99-cent cans of Arizona. Okay, go do. Yeah, well, yeah, hang with me a little bit more, and then we got to do Greeley Crimes all the time still. And so I'm staring at the cans and the bottles and the iced teas and stuff. I'm even considering a beer.
Wow.
And you know me with beer, but I think if I had near beer, I would have bought it.
Yeah.
And because for $2 you get a can of Coors or something, and I'm like, nah. I really don't feel comfortable drinking a beer on a train. I don't know why. Coulda, shoulda, whatever. But I'm standing there in front of the thing, and then this guy just strides over. And, you know, like, not even just where I'm standing, he just kind of throws open the thing, grabs the thing, like in my space almost. And it's just this real, like, someone who could literally have been in, like, the movie we showed yesterday at the library, Oscar, the old
Rocky?
Sylvester Stallone comedy about a gangster changing his way. He could absolutely be a gangster.
He might have been.
20-something years old,
He might have been.
slick back hair to here,
He might have been packing.
spats kind of shoes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I'm just saying, like, okay, fine, whatever. And then I want to go. I decide not to get a beverage
Oh wow.
because I don't want to spend $2.50
Yeah.
to drink something. So I want to go get out of the store.
Sure.
And every aisle has somebody who's leaning over looking at us. I always try and find an aisle where there's
Oh,
nobody
yeah,
in it,
yeah.
so I can just walk.
Just excuse
Because I got
me.
my knapsack, and that's
Just say,
heavy.
"Pardon me."
Well, so I go towards the checkout aisle
Go
to
to the feminine
squeeze past.
hygiene aisle. No one's ever there.
I know, right? And I'm going past, and then there's a checkout line, and then there's this guy who's right by blocking the checkout thing.
Yeah.
So as I'm wanting to pass through, I'm like, oh, fuck, I'll turn around, I'll go down another aisle. As I'm coming down, I sort of bump into
Spats?
Goomba Mafia guy.
Ah.
And you know, he's coming. I'm coming. There's time for him to fucking stop, right? And I'm like, excuse me, you know, as I bump into him.
Yeah.
And he just starts turning to me, you're excused. It's like in tones that are saying, I could shoot you right now
That's
if I
right.
wanted to.
I could
Like
put
this
I
piece
could
of
put
shit
a-
little
I could
Italian
put a
guy.
contract down on
Yeah. I was just like, everybody just turned to look at him. It's like, you're excused.
Don't make fun. My people are Italian too.
Yeah. So if I hadn't said excuse me, he probably would grab me and throw me against a wall or something. Even though he was the one
Maybe he
not
was-
stopping.
Maybe he was drunk.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I mean, it's just, he was probably like 3 inches taller than me.
He was probably just in another reality.
But yeah, this is a guy who had never stopped or considered anything else around him except himself. You could totally say like, yeah, that beer is in the car, or that drink is there. I'm going to get it. Don't fuck everybody that's near, far, left, right, center.
Also, he was inebriated.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't stumbly drunk.
Yeah, but when you lose inhibition, that's what the alcohol and drugs do.
Yeah, I guess. Or maybe he's that way. If drugs and alcohol tend to make people more loose and friendly.
Oh, God.
Imagine what this asshole is like when he's normal.
I
Yeah.
always say, like, feel bad for the family or people he goes home to.
When he goes home to it, probably put other people in cement.
Wow.
How do we get on this from 23? How do we start on
You're
this?
racist. I don't
People
know.
flying it. When we were racist.
Oh, because I said people who get away with will and might, aggressive people.
And speaking of racist, I will be reviewing Avenue Q later in the show. And playing about 28 seconds of a song about racism, which is great fun. By the way, welcome to Paul, Deirdre, Jeffrey, Owen, Lawrence, Fred, Dennis, John, Daniel, and Alan, and so many other folks who have said hi on this Saturday, May 11th, 2019, for the 696th episode of the Dave's Gone By Facebook Yo Podcast Yo Programmio of the stream, with me, 99.4% Ashkenazic Jewish, non-mafia. I'm probably related to Lepke Buchhalter or something, but certainly not mafiosi in my background. What you hopefully can relate to is what's going to be on more of this program. For example, Inside Broadway, Colorado, Limerick of the Damned. We're going to a place in Colorado called I Go, They Go, You Go. There's actually a town called Hugo, Colorado.
Nice.
Yeah. So I wrote a poem about it. You'll hear it. And then StoryTime. Oh, hung. StoryTime.
Did you finish the one about the programming for babies?
Yeah, it's kind of a short book. Last week, we actually did a book called Quantum Computing for Babies.
That's awesome.
If you missed that, by the way, if you missed any shows over the past 16 and a half years, you can go to Dave's Gone By website, davesgoneby.com. Remember, of course, it's Dave, like my name, DAVESGONEBY.com. We put the videos there. We also have, the first 15 years were just radio. Not just, I'm not denigrating radio, but it was audio only. And we have those. They're free. You can stream them. You can put them on your iPad, whatever. You can put them on your eyeball. You can, at some point, you can probably download
I don't think you can
entertainment right into your eyes.
That's not true.
So, not yet. Someday that will happen. So, let's see. Do you want to, because we haven't even hit Greeley Crimes and Old Times yet.
You just keep talking and I'll be there.
I always keep talking. And please tell your friends about this
What do you think the weather's
show.
going to be today, David Lefkowitz?
I think the weather's going to be warm-ish. Possible chance of rain, but I don't think so.
Oh no, something's falling.
By the way, welcome also to Lawrence. And a lot of people tuning in just before this hour. Jeffrey and Owen and Lawrence and Tom and Claudia from high school.
Short sleeves or long sleeves?
Well, you'll be all around you'll be in a different city or a different state later. So, yeah, change Change out. Or bring options. Why don't you wear something long sleeve and pack something really light and short sleeve in case you need it, and then it's easy to carry.
That's very clever.
I know. These are the kinds of things I think about in my brain.
How'd you get so fly?
Well, thank you, dear. Joyce just asked how I got so fly, as if. What else can I tell you about the show? Well, while Joyce is garbing herself, before we get to Greeley Crimes and Old Times, I do also want to thank the folks who sponsor this show at Hewlett Minuteman Press, the copy kings of Broadway in Hewlett, Long Island. So here's the deal. They've been around since the mid-1970s, a franchise owned and operated by the wonderful Toron family. I've been dealing with that family long before I was doing this program and they started sponsoring it. They do everything from double-sided color copies, black and white copies.
I wonder what they do the most of.
It's changed. Like everything, business has changed. So their main thing isn't, I'm sure they get a lot of people coming in and still making copies and stuff, and bound volumes and spiral bound things, but really a lot of the business now is silk screening and putting logos and patches and insignias on uniforms and sweaters and sweatshirts. And that's apparently the big part of their business now. Although, hell, if you still need copies done, if you still need to make flyers and banners and put your company logo on calendars or sporting equipment or balloons, Hewlett Minuteman Press can do that as well. And they're also known for wedding invitations.
Do you know where my pants are?
Do I know where your pants? I was wearing your skirt yesterday, just for kicks.
You look very handsome in that.
How do you get to Hewlett Minuteman Press? Well, they happen to be...
Practice.
1315 Broadway. So they moved over like 2 doors down, but they're in the same exact strip mall in the middle of Hewlett, Long Island, about 2.5 blocks from the LIRR station. They're right across the street from the Big Petco. You can find them so easily, and you should. You can also give them a call, 516-569-5577. Area code 516-569-5577. And if you tell them Dave, that's me, if you tell them Dave sent you, you get 10% off. I almost forgot there. 10% off any job, big or small. So give them a call.
Not just the copy.
Anything you want done at Hewlett Minuteman Press, 10% off. 516-569-5577. Hewlett Minuteman. They are the copy kings. Tony, finally Tony tuned in.
Tony who?
Oh, our friend Tony, who tunes in every week, but he's an hour late.
Oh.
You know, I know he usually works on Saturdays. He can only tune in for a little bit, but yay, Tony, and thank you so much for the thumbs up.
Well,
and thanks.
Hello, Tony. How's the show?
Oh, Tony. And he is a theater person, so that's kind of appropriate.
Nice to have you back.
Well, do. So should I maybe do the Limerick while you're getting dressed, or you want to start Greeley Crimes? Okay. So every week on Dave's Gone By, we do something called the Colorado Limerick of the Damned. And I usually do them much later in the show. So if you have children, it's where I just got the idea to write little 5-line poems about every possible town, city, province, community in Colorado. No particular reason.
Could you start in honor of my ancestry? Could you start doing them for towns in the Sudan?
If you'll list towns and say, what rhymes with Yeah.
Nobody, that's not what it's called. What is that?
Wait, I know where you have the click language thing. Nothing wrong.
Sudan,
there was a young girl from
no, Sudanese people, it's more Arabic. You have to learn.
Oh, great. Oh, even better. There was a young lady from Moklamakalacha who had a zit on her kuklakamaka. Right?
That's too personal.
She found a terrorist who was really pissed, and he gave her a zot in the kakalakamaka. There you go. There's a. So I've been doing this for Colorado, though, because we've been living in Colorado for about 9 or 10 years. And so we're already up to the H's. Just going to put on her. Do it fast, because this doesn't last very long. It's a short poem.
Okay.
And it's about, I can pronounce the name of this because it's not Sudan, it's Colorado. But I do want to tell you that today's town in Colorado is Hugo. Hugo, H-U-G-O, not Hugo like those little Yugoslavian cars.
Yeah.
There's apparently a little town, and it is quite little. What did I just do with my notes? Where are they? Oh, here they are. Let me give you a little bit of information here about beautiful Hugo, Colorado, because Hugo your way and I go mine. Founded in the mid-1950s, it was a cattle ranching town that was basically trying to serve and supply local mining towns all around it. It's southeast of Denver, which puts it about 2.5 hours from Greeley, Colorado, where we have been for a few years. According to Wikipedia, the most interesting factoid about Hugo, Colorado, is that in July 2016, somebody supposedly contaminated the water supply with THC.
Oh my God.
The active ingredient, the brain-changing ingredient in marijuana. That's what Hugo is known for.
How could you do that?
Well, apparently, subsequent testing found that there was no THC in the water supply. So it was apparently a hoax. But where else but Hugo? Half the time when I do these little towns in Colorado, and there's not much about them in Wikipedia except the population and the base demographic and who it was named after. And Hugo has 2 different people it could have been named after. But invariably, they're known for some horrible incident, like a mass shooting at the school, some guy poisoned the water supply. This is a couple of weeks ago. There was the town that had the listeria outbreak with the cantaloupes.
That was horrible.
That was in Colorado. I mean, every time I pick a town, that's what happens there. So anyway, are you ready for Hugo, Colorado? Okay. However, the good thing about Hugo is that at the public park, there's a 1930s era swimming pool that is on the National Register of Historic Places.
Oh, nice.
So that's kind of neat.
That's really cool.
Are you ready for our Colorado Limerick of the Damned? If you're looking for somewhere fun to go, then why not vacation in Hugo? There's golf and martinis and girls in bikinis and clubs where they won't let a Jew go. Hugo, Colorado, ladies and gentlemen, on our Colorado Limerick of the Damned for this Saturday, May 11, 2019, our 696th episode. Why don't you hang here, hang with me for Greeley Crimes and Old Times, and then do your pretty face as Desmond and Molly do. And let me just get this open because I'm going to need this for part of this. It's Greeley Crimes and Old Times, which has to do with stories that come into the Greeley Tribune newspaper back home. Yeah, go for it, because I got to play the music anyway. La bloody-dee-doo. Yes, Greeley Crimes and Old Times. So they're based on stories in the Greeley Tribune newspaper, our hometown newspaper when we're living in Colorado. Let me give you, let me show you their old front page from a while back. Here we go. So, ta-da, sublime. So the Greeley Tribune still publishes hard copy 4 times a week. I guess that's something. And they still generally, once a week, print 2 different stories. One of them is called Cop Log, and it's about phone calls that come into the local police department, and they're not the really scary, horrible, actual crime phone calls. They're more from people who are like, oh, there's a squirrel on the fence. I need a policeman to do something about that. It's that kind of logging of calls that come into the police department. So that's part 1. That's one story that the Trib does almost every week. They've been getting kind of iffy and lazy on these things. And then there's also Greeley Old Times, where our friend of the Daverhood, Mike Peters, goes into the newspapers from 1919. And he pulls out the most weird or interesting or nostalgic or funny stories that were printed in 1919 in that local paper. So it's called Greeley Crimes and Old Times. And we're going to start it right now with, I'm kind of hoping when Joyce comes back, how I vamp. Can I vamp with potato? Do. Greeley, oh really, Greeley, they make me squealy, Greeley. I'm touchy-feely. Okay, it's not working. I'm losing all my viewers as we speak. By the way, welcome though to Tony and Patty and Michael. Hey, welcome to everybody. Yes, oh, you heard when Joyce is in the bathroom across the hall. She still heard Potato singing, and I pulled her out of the bathroom. He's trying to sing a song about Greeley.
Why?
Why'd you close the bathroom door? Yeah, no, afterwards.
Oh, I don't know. It's a bad habit.
Anyway.
I'm trying to reserve the room.
Oh, I hear you. Okay, are you ready to be criminalized and old-timealized?
I'm ready to be old-timealized.
Here we go. Police responded to 14th Avenue.
Uh-oh, near 18th, yeah.
For a confused-looking man
Yeah.
riding a children's bike.
Oh, that's nice.
I was nowhere near 14th Avenue. I don't know. There's nothing wrong with that.
Why is that bad?
Maybe they thought he stole the bike, or
Maybe he just was short.
yeah, that could be.
He wanted to ride a bike that he could, have access to.
Well, police also responded, and by the way, I'm gonna go naughty to the Greeley Tribune again, because these were from last week, and as of today, they had not yet posted a new cop log for this week. So we're getting down to the Betty Harpers on that.
Okay, let me sit down here. I know you're gonna get mad at me if I don't sit. Ugh. Okay.
Police responded to 11th Avenue
Yeah.
for a man who parked his wheelchair at the corner
Yeah.
and was flipping off passing cars.
What's wrong with that?
I guess that's freedom of
Can't
speech.
you do that? What's wrong with that?
Maybe it was a miracle. Maybe it was a quadriplegic and suddenly he could use his hands. I don't know.
David, tell me how you got so fly.
Oh, man. Okay. We also have some old-timey news for you from Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Here we go.
Old-timey?
In Hawaii, the construction of the Pearl Harbor Naval Base is complete.
Whoa.
Took 10 years of work and an investment. How much do you think it cost back then to construct Pearl Harbor Naval Base?
$1 million?
No, 4.5 mil. Now you can construct the elevator in the military for $4.5 million.
Put in a toilet for that much.
It'll be one of the main bases for the U.S. Navy. Sure sounds impermeable, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh
We
man.
were there.
Let's put all our ships in one place.
We were there, David. Remember, we were there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Remember, your friend took us on the base, and we saw the buildings that were shot up and stuff.
And everybody's having a fun time until you realize it's basically a burial ground because there's still like dead soldiers' bones in there or something.
That was down below.
Yeah. Anyway, we have an advertisement for you. Here we go.
Ooh.
Mrs. Pearl Bardwell.
Ooh.
Mrs. Pearl
That's a
Bardwell.
very fancy name.
Well, she is a Spirella corsetier.
What the heck? Spirella is like pasta? What is it?
It sounds like it, doesn't
it's
it?
wheat. It's a wheat germ.
No, it's a Spirella corsetier.
Oh, it's a course maker?
Yeah. Is available to help women with their corsets.
Ooh.
Of course that she will. She will deliver the corsets and help fit them to the customer.
That's kinky.
Yeah. Well, it'd be fine, if that was a great job for lesbians back then and nobody cared, it's a woman, it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she's not just a corsetier. She is the high-level Spirella corsetier.
Is that like Spinderella? Is that like the DJ?
Oh, she's under the Spirella
they
umbrella.
fired Spinderella, Salt and Pepper. You know that.
No,
Yeah.
Why did they do
I
that?
don't know. It was a big thing. They had some issues.
Could never get into salt. But I had a boss once who was really
I
into
like
them.
Salt and Pepper.
He was a gay man, go figure,
Of course.
and he liked salt and pepper.
Let's talk about sex, baby.
Maybe
Push it good. Do.
Police responded to 9th Avenue,
Close to 8th.
close to 8th Avenue, for a man standing on the corner. A lot of people just sort of standing on the corner watching traffic and then getting reported to the police. But this guy was standing on the corner with not one, but both hands down his pants. Not sure if it'd be worse if they were down the front of his pants or the back. Doesn't say.
The front.
Front would be worse? Yeah, okay.
He's probably doing his happy time.
Maybe directing traffic that way.
Oh.
It was like, stop! Go! Yeah.
That's not good.
Just show how my brain works at this point. I'm doing this and going, stop. Like, hello. Anywho. Hey, eye, ear, nose, and throat doctor Casey Sapero. I wonder if that's a derivative of Shapiro, but Sapero will be in town on Friday setting up to see children at the Camfield Hotel.
Ooh.
He can scientifically adjust eyeglasses and straighten the cross eyes of children.
Wow.
Can you do that?
He
Can you
must
take
be
a
like
cross-eyed child?
he must be like Jesus. I think you do it by training the eyes in some way.
Can you really do that?
Yeah, you have to strengthen the eye muscles. Yeah.
Because I remember being told as a kid, whether by my parents or other people, that don't do this, don't, because they'll stay like that. Do you ever hear that from? Yeah, if you keep doing this, you'll never be able to move them again. You'll always be like this.
Only for people with your genetic composition.
Yeah, good point. Good point. We always like to have a lazy eye.
Why?
It's like one eye wants to read the newspaper and the other is like, I don't know. I want to sleep a little more. I want to watch TV. Lazy eye won't get a job. Did you hear about the lazy eye that became a teacher?
No.
Couldn't control his pupils.
That's funny.
That's comedy right there. Right here. You know what? You're not doing the sound effects here. We got the grogger.
Oh.
We've got the bell, and why don't you show what I did get at Kmart yesterday? This is a very beautiful thing. I'll run and get it if you can. Or can you just maybe reach him, or is it too hard to here? Use mine. This is important. This is a very important thing because we can use them as a noisemaker. I'm getting a great view of Joyce right now. Here we go. So they have these for Easter. I thought they would go on sale.
It says squeeze me.
Yeah, it's a squeeze me chicken.
Does it really?
Oh, give him a good squeeze. Give him a good hard squeeze.
Squeeze the chicken to hear a loud sound.
Yeah, try him.
No, thank you.
Oh yeah, give him a try. Give him a good hard squeeze. No, you don't want to do it. This is what it looks like. Now we have another chicken that we've had for a couple of weeks. I want to do the difference between them. Now this, granted, this one looks like a sex toy for some very sick ass people, but he's kind of cute in his way. Yeah. Aside from whatever happens with this thing, but like cute, like a little baby. Cute. It really should go bok bok, but bok bok. Yeah, okay, that could be a chicken. Okay, that's this chicken, which my wife purchased probably for under $1. Yes. Couple months ago at this point. We're very proud to have him. I'm very happy to have this chicken as a noisemaker in our home. Well, not to be outdone, Kmart has this. It's the Squeeze Me chicken, and it sounds a little something like this. It's like a baby being tortured. Is that the greatest noise ever? There's no chicken in the universe that makes a noise like that. But holy crap, and it's by Animals. This is why they're in a bin, but they still charge $5 a piece for these fucking things. I couldn't resist though. I even was looking for the bin. And I asked the guy, and he said, I don't know where they are. And he walked me all the way, halfway down the store back to the entrance. And he said, oh yeah, they're in that bin. And at that point, I sort of had to commit. Because I thought maybe after Easter, they'll go down to $2, but no. Oh my God. Hey, what did babies sound like in Auschwitz?
I like that the dog is not at all entertained.
Oh.
It's a horrible scene.
Isn't that the most awful thing you've ever heard? Which, of course, I'm going to fall in love with and use all the time. It's like somebody with a stoma laughing.
It sounds like, I don't know, I can't place it, but it does have a special, unique sound.
Oh, doesn't it? Oh, doesn't it then? Yeah. Anyway, that's our news noisemaker, our new addition to the family today on the Dave's Gone By Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the stream.
It's very loud.
It is.
Why is it so loud?
Well, I don't know.
It's too loud.
Well, it says it makes a loud sound. That's kind of the point.
It's very loud. You think that's why people like it?
In fact, last night, it occurred to me after I had that run-in with the Goomba.
You should have used it.
I'm just being like, excuse me. They say, you're excused. I should just say, yeah. Right in his ear.
It's a horrible thing.
It's a horrible thing, isn't it?
It really is a horrible thing.
No, I love it. Anywho, moving on with Greeley crimes and old times for this Saturday morning. Let's see what else we got here. We have someone dropped a lighted cigarette through the floor
Shouldn't
grating.
it be lit?
I guess lighted kind of works. These days we would say lit. Cigarette through the floor grating at the Harbaugh Shoe Company, starting a fire in the basement. The fire department extinguished the fire with 1 bucket of water.
Good.
But if there's a fire in a shoe company, is there a sole survivor? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Whoever made that should be shot.
Police responded to 9th Avenue. Oh, no, I already did that one. This may be the last ever Greeley crime, if they don't bring this column back regularly.
Wow. I hope they do.
Me too. Police responded to 35th Avenue for, speaking of shoes, a shoeless girl standing near the caller's car.
Yeah.
When the caller approached the vehicle,
Yeah.
the woman asked, "Are you a part of this race?"
Mm.
The caller thought it was, quote, weird. I don't know
Maybe
if she
was
meant
doing some kind of barefoot race.
or a car race or just the human race.
Or maybe she got her 23andMe and she was wanting to see if he was part of the race.
That's right. What percentage Ashkenazic Jew was he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Are you ready for an elsewhere?
Yeah.
I think we're both ready for an elsewhere. This is a wonderful story. Because what we do is, especially when we're short on Greeley crimes or old times, we move to other places to do more bits of odd news. For example, Painesville, Ohio.
Yes.
An iguana.
Oh, here, you show my cup.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Look at that. Here we go. Except this is a cup from Aruba there. But,
Yeah, but it's an iguana.
there's a look. There he is. Look, he's so cute. Ta-da! Well, this iguana is in kind of better shape than the iguana in this story.
Uh-oh.
An iguana injured when a man pulled the lizard from under his shirt.
Oh. Well, anyway, this is elsewhere or old times?
This is brand new, but this is from Painesville, Ohio.
Okay,
Happened
so
last week.
He pulled the iguana from
He took
under his shirt.
an iguana
Yeah.
out of his shirt, and he threw it at a restaurant manager. The poor iguana remains in protective custody at a humane society.
Oh.
And here's the problem. So they kind of buried the lead
Yeah.
on this one when they wrote about it on Associated Press,
Yeah.
because they made it about the iguana's treatment rather than
Why
like
was
a
it
guy took an
yeah.
iguana and threw it at a restaurant manager, that's really the story right there. You know, if a guy's walking around with an iguana under his shirt and throwing it at people, that's the story. The condition of the iguana is secondary.
That's a problem.
But here's the deal. The iguana is at the Humane Society.
Yeah.
Now they're having to raise money and go to court to provide medical treatment.
Really?
The turquoise female iguana that the police named Copper,
Oh.
no, he has a broken leg and metabolic bone disease. Now, broken leg I get.
Yeah.
Bone disease
Is
did
that
not
from
happen.
stress?
I don't know. You don't get bone disease but by being thrown at a restaurant manager. Maybe a waiter.
Yes.
Okay.
You might get herpes.
Now, the animal needs surgery that will cost about $1,600, but that can't happen until a judge approves because the Humane Society isn't the owner of the iguana.
Oh.
So Copper's getting basic care, but the Humane Society is seeking tax-deductible donations
Yeah,
for the
GoFundMe.
surgery. Yeah.
GoFundMe.
The iguana's 49-year-old owner has been charged with cruelty to animals and disorderly conduct. Both are misdemeanors. According to authorities, the man threw a menu at a waitress at a Perkins restaurant in Painesville, Ohio on April 16th.
That's not good.
When a manager intervened, the man removed the iguana from beneath his shirt, twirled it around,
Oh my God.
and threw it at him.
How the heck did you-
He lassoed the iguana. I guess you can lasso a lizard if you need to. Authorities haven't said what provoked the attack.
Something.
It's a wide, wonderful world, isn't it, folks? I gotta tell you. Let's see. This weekend was the quiet
I
wedding.
did his eyes, David.
Oh, thank you, man. The quiet wedding of
Oh.
Alfred Korsberg and Helen Briscoe
Is this
in
old
Greeley.
times?
This is-
Yeah.
yeah, in Greeley.
Okay.
The bride is very popular and a
Yeah.
great singer.
Oh, good.
But here's how they used to editorialize the news
Oh,
way back before
Yeah.
MSNBC, before Fox News.
Yeah.
The paper says the groom should be congratulated that he can call such a beautiful girl his wife.
Oh.
This is the way they used to write news back then.
Well, I guess, listen, they're probably, maybe he was kind of schlumpy and kind of
Yeah.
frumpy, and, maybe he won the genetic lottery. I picked a really
Mm.
fancy lady.
A hot chick for the day.
Yeah. Good for him.
That's true. I wonder if they would say, like, oh, how do you get such a frump? Or
No, I wouldn't say.
I wonder if he knows she's a slut.
They would say she's probably good at knitting, or maybe she's
Oh,
well
yeah.
known to the community.
Yeah, that could be. Oh, you think I look better with this closed?
Yeah, because
Okay.
I don't want to see her undershirt.
I was showing my chest hair before. That
You
was
look
an
pretty.
exciting thing right there.
What did you think was too much?
What do you mean was too much?
You said something like a little.
Uh,
You got a little glare. Yeah, you're sweating.
oh, yeah.
You're glistening, honey.
Oh.
That's what they. Yeah.
I need one of those bounce cards and powder.
I don't
on
even
my
know what
head.
that means.
Oh, well, it's a deflect thing, or just so you notice how my hand can block some of it and puts that in shadow.
Is that what they do on the TV?
Well, they can, so they don't have the light directly over. Actually, there isn't a light directly over
Yes,
my
it's
head.
coming up through the
Oh, from
the shade.
window
the
shade.
is in the yeah.
Oh well. Anyway, future's so bright. I gotta use shades.
Yes.
Let's. We're almost finished with Greeley crimes and
I have
old
to make
times.
tea. I can't breathe. Yeah.
Okay. Well, yeah. We're here. Oh, time for another
Do you want
advertisement.
Coffee? More coffee?
Yeah, actually, well, it'd be my third cup
That's
already.
okay.
Oh,
I'll make
yeah,
you
I can-
decaf. I can get a. Do we have a decaf? We have decaf.
Yeah, we should. And even if
French
we don't, I'm
roast.
fine.
Do you want regular or
Oh,
French
I don't
roast
know
decaf?
now.
French
I
roast.
don't know. It can either be Maxwell House or
We have caramel and caramel one.
No,
I'm
too
going to
sweet.
make you a decaf. We bought it all. We never
Yeah,
used
because
it.
when I'm doing Inside Broadway, I could
Yeah,
probably
I'll
use
make
it.
it.
So here's the deal. Well, first thing advertisement, and then we'll do one more
Okay.
elsewhere. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die, is not the motto of the Camfield Hotel dining room.
Why not?
To eat at the hotel today would mean you would live a long time and return to eat there many times. That's about the worst advertising copy I've ever heard in my
We
life.
would hope that if you eat at a restaurant, you're going to eat there
Again, yeah. I guess I wanted to rework Shakespeare and show how clever they were, but no. And now, since Rabbi Saul Solomon is not going to be part of this episode of the show, because he's not going to be interviewing anybody,
I think isn't he doing his community service for prison?
something like that. I know it's also Israeli Independence weekend. It was either last weekend or this weekend. If it was last weekend, he's having a hangover. If it's this weekend, he's having a hangover. So Rabbi Saul, deeply involved in the Jewish community, of course. So he can't be with us today, but I dedicate this.
I'm just taking a picture of his schedules.
Oh, sure,
I'm confused. I'm just not well.
We dedicate this story to him.
Okay.
Dateline, Melbourne, Australia. On the day commemorating Israel Independence Day, I guess this was last week, a Jewish school in Austria, maybe it was yesterday, gathered 1,048 people to form the shape of a menorah and break a Guinness World Record. Bialik College in Melbourne.
What does Bialik mean?
And this is very close to my heart because my elementary school was Bialik School in Brooklyn, New York. It was named after the poet and Hebrew writer Chaim Nachman Bialik. So there's lots of schools and things named Bialik, except my old elementary school, which folded 20 years ago. So here's Bialik College in Melbourne, Australia, had students and staff break the Guinness record for the world's largest human 7-branched candelabrum. Officials confirmed that this event far surpassed the menorah created by 500 students from Ben Porat Yosef School in New Jersey in 2017. So, just my big hearty congratulations to Bialik College in Melbourne, Australia for this auspicious event of a 1,000-person human menorah. And of course, afterwards, they were all lit on fire and died. So it was a bittersweet occasion. But anyway, on this occasion, we end Greeley Crimes and Old Times.
Mr. Horace Greeley was no fool. I'm sure that you'll agree with me that Greeley was no fool.
What he is getting at is that Mr. Greeley was no fool.
Yippee-yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi-yi-yi, yippee-yi,
Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Today, on the Dave's Gone By, Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the Stream, with me, Dave Lefkowitz. I want to thank my darling and wonderful wife, Joyce, for being part of that, part of the first part of the show, of course. There's a bit more show to go, because we still have story time, and oh boy, Oh boy, we have a story that I probably read when I was in my preteens. Maybe not, because it felt maybe a bit more like a girl's book, but not sure. The one, the only, Hello, Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle by Betty McDonald. That coming up. Well, we'll be doing that for a couple of weeks. It's Hello, Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle on our story time. We'll also have our friends in the Daverhood segment. But before all that, you know that I am well, I've said this before, I'm a playwright, an arts journalist, a theater critic, actor, director, blah, blah, blah. Love the theater, love sharing the theater with you. And we do that every week on a segment called Inside Broadway. Inside Broadway, a look at theater on and off Broadway and beyond. Brought to you by Total Theater and Performing Arts Insider. Curtain going up. Inside Broadway we go, and we do it every week here, because I like to tell you the exciting stuff that's happening in Broadway theater. One, because it's the American, it's our all-important art form. I mean, I know they have the West End and theater in other countries, but there's something about the American theater, and especially Broadway, that is exciting and special and is important to me, or more important even than movies and music and other arts things that come out. So I'm going to review a couple of shows and also give you some Broadway news. For example, one of the better musicals of the latter half of the 20th century was written by Peter Stone and Sherman Edwards. Certainly not necessarily household names the way Kander and Ebb and Sondheim are, but these guys cooked up a one-off show that took everybody by surprise back in 1969. It was 1776, all about the signing of the Declaration of Independence. It's time for a new Broadway revival of the show, and they're going to get it, courtesy of the American Repertory Theater in Massachusetts and the Amundsen Theater out in Los Angeles, where it will try out, and then it will come to the Roundabout in the spring of 2021. So we're about 2 years away from this revival of 1776. Diane Paulus, really talented director. She did the revival of Hair a couple of years ago. She did the Donkey Show off Broadway, and that very acclaimed revival of Pippin a couple of years back. Diane Paulus will be staging 1776. Now, the show originally opened back on March 16th, 1969, and ran nearly 3 years. That's a big hit back then. Not a bad hit now either, with Ken Howard in it, Howard Da Silva, and William Daniels. Of course, you know him from St. Elsewhere, playing John Adams, kind of the lead role there. And the whole thing is, you've got these delegates in Massachusetts, and John Adams wants his colleagues to vote for independency, to vote to break from the crown. Well, not everybody's on board with that. And then you've got rifts between the southern delegates and the northern delegates. A lot goes on. And one of the great lines about this was written by our friend of the Daverhood.
David, you're getting texts from people in the audience to my phone.
Oh, that's wonderful. And my colleague Peter Felicia wrote in one of his columns about the show, because he's a real expert about musical theater. And Peter said, 1776 actually makes you worry that it won't happen, that they're not going to sign the Declaration, that they're going to stay colonists, they're going to fight each other the whole time. It's such a good musical that it really keeps you edge of your seat, nail biting. Oh my God, is America going to happen? By the way, we got a text from Friendy. They say we want to go to one of the Horace Greeley statues with you when we're in New York City, because there is a Greeley Square about 3 blocks from Penn Station. It's over, I think, by either 6th Avenue between 6th and 7th or something like that. It's called Horace Greeley Square, something like that. So sure, absolutely. Anyway, what am I doing? Oh, so yes, the spirit of 1776 will be coming to Broadway. And because they did a revival in 1997. It was actually the Roundabout that did the revival 22 years ago. Brent Spiner was in that one playing John Adams. So yeah, especially with politics the way it is now, it'll be interesting to see how people who hated each other just as much as the Republicans and Democrats hate each other now, ironed out their differences and made it happen. And it's a pretty cool show. 1776 coming back to Broadway. Well, it was the awards are starting, right? We're in the thick of award season. A lot more going to be announced over the next 2 weeks, leading up to the Tonys, the second Sunday in June. This week, the New York Drama Critics Circle announced its choices for the 3 awards that they give. It's and they were announced, by the way, on Tuesday, May 7th. They're going to have a ceremony on the 13th. Best play, the play that I'm going to be reviewing in just a couple of minutes, is the Broadway staging of the English hit by Jez Butterworth, The Ferryman. For goodness sakes, let's hold this up properly. Look, let's try and hold this up properly using 2 hands. Much better. The Ferryman won Best Play by the New York Drama Critics Circle. What else? Best American Play. They have a second category just for American plays. Heidi Schreck's What the Constitution Means to Me. And for Best Musical, it's Tootsie. Tootsie, the musical, which is co-written by our friend David Yazbek. They've also gave special awards to the Irish Repertory Theatre, well deserved, Page 73 Productions, and, speaking of well deserved, the National Yiddish Theatre Folksbiene's Yiddish mounting of Fiddler on the Roof, which I saw about 3 weeks ago and was absolutely beautiful and terrific, and go see it immediately. So yay, I can't disagree with any of this. Apparently, Michael Riegel wrote in the Post that there was some back and forth carping and sniping at the New York Drama Critics Circle because they were not considering Hadestown for Best Musical. They went with Tootsie, and they might have gone with Tootsie anyway. But Hadestown is a critical hit, and the music in it is wonderful. I could see voting for that for Best Musical, certainly for Best Score, but they didn't even want to consider Hadestown because it ran a couple of years ago off Broadway. And once it's out there and been considered, if you bring it back, it's already like a revival. It's not a new piece, even though a lot apparently was done, changing the show, revising the show, renewing the show to bring it to Broadway. It's apparently a very different show than it was downtown. So you had some critics saying, hey, let's consider it. Let's have that as something, a new Broadway show, because it kind of is. And then other people said, no, the bylaws say it's not a new show. It was done off Broadway. We could have and did consider it 3-4 years ago. Sorry, we need to leave the field open to brand new shows, which they did. So anyway, congratulations to those 3 winners, Tootsie, Ferryman, and What the Constitution Means to Me. Well, speaking of The Ferryman, I went to see it this week, and at the Bernard Jacobs Theater on West 45th Street. It is, as you can see, you don't see this very often. I mean, unless you're watching the Harry Potter show, or actually, I went to see Socrates downtown a week ago, and that had a fairly big cast as well. But look at that. Look at it, a stage teeming with people. Ever since I've been a theater critic, we were even taught back in my NYU days that you've got a much better chance of getting your play produced if you've got fewer than 6 cast members and simple staging. Because you're generally not going to get an epic done anywhere. Nobody wants to pay the actors' salaries. Unions are killing the costs of things. So to get a show up with that many people on stage is kind of special and kind of rare. But okay, so you can fill a stage with a lot of people, but is it worth? Are you doing a lot with them? Are they just populating the stage, or they're valuable? And let me tell you, every single line, every single minute, every single moment of The Ferryman is important and great. So yeah, it is a 3-hour and 15-minute play. And there are times when you're wondering, okay, are we just getting local color here? Are we seeing a little too many children? Is this just about the family? Everything is building and building. One of the genius things that playwright Jez Butterworth does with the show is that instead of opening it with kind of a very boisterous family scene of the Carney family on their farm just around harvest time, and doing that, and then slowly letting the dread seep in and start to wonder, okay, when does the plot really kick in? When does this get a little scary? When are things happening in the past going to come back to haunt them? He starts with a scene that puts you on edge. He starts with just a couple of people on stage, including an IRA-ish guy, we learn, asking questions of a priest and saying, what do you know about this? What do you know about this guy and his family? And are you going to help me? And, you probably do want to help me because I know your sister, I know where she lives. And suddenly, before anything else happens, in the first incredibly gripping 5 minutes of the show, you're in this sense of, oh boy, I don't care whether it's 2 hours long, 5 hours long, something's going to happen. And there's that pulse of dread underneath everything. And it colors even the very happy and lively scene of getting introduced to all the family members, the backstories. You've got Quinn Carney, who is this really likable family guy running the farm, but he has a past. Okay, he was an IRA terrorist, but he kind of broke ranks because he wanted to get married, settle down, not be part of killing and terrorism anymore. But as they say in Godfather 3, they pull you back in a sense. You can never get too far away from your past. So he's got a wife, but she's kind of sickly. She's a Mary Tyrone type, not drugs, just kind of unspecified ill. And she stays upstairs most of the time. He's also living with his sister-in-law, Katie, who is an attractive woman, and he's noticed. But she's living there because her brother disappeared 10 years ago. Nobody's been able to find him. Nobody knows what happened to him. He just sort of disappeared. And over the years, she's been getting messages. Oh, I saw him by the docks. Oh, I saw his car. He was shopping. And so turns out, to really start the play, they get the information that Seamus's body has been found. And it's been found at the bottom of the bog, and there's a gunshot right through the head. So now she's finally getting some closure. And it's that one piece of information that all of the rest of Ferryman spins out into. And it ends up affecting every single person on stage. And as things get more and more intricate and deep, and you get people who are still very strong pro-IRA and pro what has to be done and in the way it has to be done in order to side against the English. You've got the old woman who is rabidly anti-Maggie Thatcher and pro-IRA. Is everything okay? What's happening here? Oh, okay. Yeah, let's not feed him anymore for a bit. Our dog puked a little bit. I guess he got nervous about the play as well. And so I don't want to give any more. I mean, literally, I could spend half an hour just trying to detail the plot and I can repiece it together. You can follow it while it's happening, even though it's an Irish play, even though some of the accents are hard to get. And there's a lot of back and forth because one of the great things about the Ferryman is he masters, the playwright does, the monologue, because there's some great solo scenes where the person is just telling stories from the past. There's also great one-on-one scenes, and then the family scenes work as well. And so you get this balance of noise and quiet together, and they're all important, and they're all telling backstory that ends up being relevant to what happens in the final scenes. Am I recommending The Ferryman? You betcha. 3.5 stars for the show. The acting is terrific, and this isn't the original cast. A lot of the cast members were flipped over a couple of months ago when the show got extended. So you've got Brian Darcy James playing the lead role. I still remember Patty Considine from the first time I saw it. Brian Darcy James is just fine. Pretty much everybody is really just fine. Some people enunciate better than the older folks. You won't care. You will be so hooked into this play, I promise you. And what else do I want to tell you about it? No, that's all I need to tell you. It's a must. It is far and away the best play of this season. I haven't seen much off Broadway this season, but probably on or off Broadway. It's got epic quality. It's got intimacy and scale in some scenes. It has political stuff. It's got emotional stuff. There's a beautiful scene between Quinn and his sister-in-law when it seems when they might actually finally be able to get together, because they've been doing this somewhat erotic pas de deux through the whole show and through the past 10 years since she literally lost her husband, not knowing for sure that he died. So yeah, go see it. The Ferryman on Broadway at the Bernard Jacobs Theater. Absolutely a must-see, and I do hope it wins the Tony Award for Best Play. Absolutely, unquestionably deserves it. Okay, doing Inside Broadway here on Dave's Gone By. I want to remind you that we do this program and are happy to do this program every Saturday from 9 until 11 or so Eastern Time. And we do this segment Inside Broadway, courtesy on some level of Total Theater, which is a website and a company that puts out this wonderful journal, Performing Arts Insider, the Bible of Broadway, since 1944. This is where people in the entertainment industry go to find out about every single show on, off, and off Broadway, and awards as well. You know, here's a listing of the Obies. So let's page through the magazine. You got the table of contents, you got a guide to the Broadway season, including all the shows that opened this season, shows that are still on Broadway running from previous seasons, and even all the shows that are coming up in 2019, 2020, and a little map of the Broadway Theater District too. That's all on one page. Another page, all the Broadway theaters listed, their addresses, what shows are in them, who owns them, how many seats are there. And then a guide to the press agents. These are the folks who handle the publicity for the productions on Broadway. And then the day-by-day calendar listings of when every single show starts, previews, opens, or closes, not only on Broadway, but off and off Broadway as well. Check it out. These are all the shows currently running off Broadway. These are shows that are starting previews, opening, or closing. So for example, this is the May issue. Today is May 11th. Let's take a look at off Broadway for May 11th. What's happening? Oh my gosh, lots of things. A show called The Buffalo Play is playing or opening at the Tank today. Also opening at the Tank, a show called I Thought I Would Die. And then a bunch of shows are closing, so this is your last chance to catch them today. Battles of Richmond Hill, Downtown Urban Arts Festival, a play called Entangled, another play called Miracle in Rwanda, Mrs. Murray's Menagerie, and a production by Club Thumb called Plano. If you care about the theater in New York, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that you need. There's also a guide to awards and special events, and then we get to the heart of the magazine, a guide to every single show on Broadway or will be opening on Broadway in the months ahead and off Broadway too. So we were just talking about the Ferryman, right? Let's tell you, here, look at all this information about the show. You don't need a playbill. You don't need to open Windows on your computer. It's all here in this hard copy, handy magazine. The author, the director, the person who choreographed some of the dancing in the show, there's the casting director, all the people in the cast, notes about the show, the plot, history of where it played before it got to New York, and then all the producers and how to contact them, the production stage manager, the press agent, the advertising people. That info's in there too, the theater that it's in and the dates that it's running. That's just for that one show. Imagine for every single show on Broadway, and then a whole section of all the shows off Broadway as well. As a matter of fact, I'll be reviewing Avenue Q in a couple of minutes. And look at this. Here's Avenue Q. Ta-da! Look at all the information about that show that used to be on Broadway. It's all in the pages of Performing Arts Insider. How do you get it? Go to performingartsinsider.com. Now, it's an expensive publication, but the people who subscribe, they renew over and over again because they know this is the only place they can get all this information so quickly, so clearly, so easily, and so practically. performingartsinsider.com. And if you're not sure it's for you, send away for a single issue. All that info is at the website, performingartsinsider.com, or you can pick up a single copy on the newsstand at Theater Circle in Manhattan over on West 44th Street near Schubert Alley. And so, Performing Arts Insider, and by the way, that's put out by the Total Theater Company. You can go to totaltheater.com and read for free reviews of shows on, off Broadway, regional theater, and even international theater and festivals too. totaltheater.com. Do check that out. And we thank Total Theater again for sponsoring Inside Broadway. I'm sorry, I've been squelching a burp while I've been doing this. So anyway, let's get back to Inside Broadway with more Broadway news and information. Got to say a farewell to David Bova. Now, usually when we bid farewells to Broadway people, they're 80 or 90 years old with long resumes in the history of Broadway theater. This is sad. This is a guy who was 41 years old, and he died of undisclosed causes on Thursday. He was the hair, wig, and makeup designer for the new Broadway musical Be More Chill. He also worked on the Broadway productions of Indecent, Bandstand, and Violet. Off-Broadway, he did that for Jerry Springer the Opera and that fine show My Name is Asher Lev. George Salazar, who plays Michael in the Bathroom in Be More Chill, he tweeted, "David was one of the most generous and thoughtful people in the business, a true collaborator." So farewell to designer David Bova, who passed away this week in just 41 years old. Also, now we get to someone who has the acreage and anarage in the theater, Terry Allen Kramer, Broadway producer. She died at the age of 85 on May 2nd of pneumonia. She helped produce among such shows as Hello Dolly in 2017, the Bette Midler one, Kinky Boots, the terrible Edward Albee play The Goat or Who is Sylvia. What else does she leave behind? Terry Allen Kramer. This is why people can be Broadway producers. She listed her mansion last fall at $135 million. It's the most expensive mansion ever. Her first Broadway hit was the 1977 musical I Love My Wife. She also had money in Sugar Babies, Shadowlands, and the popular drama, the award-winning drama a couple of years ago called The Humans. So a big farewell to Terry Allen Kramer, the producer who passed away. And hey, we have all the sad news, some kind of happy news. You know, we've been telling you about the Longfontaine Theater and what they're doing this summer with residencies of different kinds of artists for a week or two, or just a few days. They come in and they do a concert or a specialty act and bring people to Broadway who don't necessarily go to Broadway. And so it was inspired, I guess, by that long run of Bruce Springsteen's show. And so, and now we just have Morrissey finishing his production. So now there's going to be this thing where they have residencies of all these different people, like Regina Spektor, and Yanni is doing a show, and they got Chris Angel, the Mind Freak guy. He's coming back to Broadway. So for a couple of days, they've just announced that Rain, the Beatles tribute band, supposedly the best Beatles tribute band in the world, they're going to be doing the best of Abbey Road live at the Broadway Longfontaine Theater, July 16th through the 21st. So they're not just going to be doing Abbey Road, but I guess they're going to concentrate on that album and play a bunch of other Beatles stuff too. So yeah, that's the latest announcement of residencies at the Longfontaine Theater happening in mid-July. Well, as I've been saying, I do want to let you know that I returned to Avenue Q. We live on Avenue Q. Avenue Q, I remember when this opened, I missed it off Broadway. It was such a hit. It was such a surprise delight to people that they had to move it to Broadway. And it became a darling of Broadway there, to the point where this was the musical that opened in the same exact season that Wicked opened. And it beat Wicked in the Tonys for Best Musical. And at the time, I was like, really? I'm not so sure. But you know what? I loved Wicked, and I had a wonderful, spectacular time at Wicked. But Avenue Q, man, there's something special about that show, too. So I finally went back to see it because Avenue Q is closing in just a couple of weeks. In fact, it was supposed to close in April, and so many people wanted to see it one last time that the producers reneged and allowed it to run another 4 to 6 weeks. But yeah, late May, Avenue Q is going away after 15 years, first off-Broadway, then on, winning the Tony Award, then back to off-Broadway at New World Stages. Well, I've heard the cast album a bunch of times, but I haven't seen the show since watching it on Broadway a decade and a half ago. So I went back to see Avenue Q again, and does it hold up? And I gotta say, you can sort of see how they're closing it because the theater was far from full at this point. So they probably have other shows that they want to bring in there and pack the house. Does the musical still work? Sure. Is it, I don't know, dated? No. Yeah, I mean, you can feel nostalgic about 15 years ago and still understand how certain ways New York has changed, certain ways it hasn't, certain ways parts of New York haven't changed and will never change. And that's what it makes fun of. It uses Sesame Street style puppets and the ideology, in a way, of a children's show with puppets, a Sesame Street type show, to tell the story of just what it means to be living in New York with almost no money, to be young and not understand or not know what the hell your purpose is, to wonder where your next paycheck is going to come from, to try and maybe meet a person, fall in love, to cope with the problems that you have, and do it all in a really spectacularly funny way. Well, it was spectacularly funny when it was new a decade and a half ago. Being now more familiar with Avenue Q, it's not like I'm rolling out my seat anymore or surprised by the brilliance of the lyrics and how incredibly funny they are. They can't ever quite get that back. Does this production now of Avenue Q show its age in terms of, well, yeah, they're kind of slumming it, they're kind of walking through it almost? For the most part, no. There's one actor, I'm not going to call him out by name, who literally, let's just say he has the least stage time, and he's the biggest guy there. And he's married to Christmas, or he's going to be married to Christmas Eve. So he's one of the neighbors in the show. I don't know. I mean, this guy is physically cast right, but maybe he wanted to, his mind was on something else that afternoon. But I kept waiting for him to do anything, and I just got nothing from him. Otherwise, the cast was pretty good. I had trouble understanding Christmas Eve, which is the Asian character, who talked in about a style, typical Asian accent, even though it's played by an Asian woman. And so intentionally, she can be kind of hard to understand. But she's, well, where am I going with this? She is funny still. And she has a really, really nice singing voice. And just I wish that I got more of her jokes because I couldn't understand her. And then the guy playing Trekkie and the Kermit-like character, if you know your Sesame Street even more than your Avenue Q, he had some, I could use more voice from him and more projection from him. It was kind of little low on the voice and low on the energy. However, it must be said that the leads are absolutely strong, and a big shout out, let me get these names right for you, from the Playbill. So Kate Monster and Lucy the Slut is played by Veronica J. Kuhn, and she is a find. You will be seeing and hearing more of her. She's just right for the role. And also Princeton is really good. Matt Dengler is in there, and and Brian. You know what, I should have prepared this a little bit better. All I can say is if you've never seen Avenue Q, it's worth seeing. You must see it. If you have seen Avenue Q, it's not in the great shape that it was on Broadway. If the set feels a little smaller, feels a little older, the audience can't respond in the way that it did all those years ago when Avenue Q hadn't become so familiar and a meme. I remember a friend of mine telling me just a couple of weeks ago that when she went to see Avenue Q off Broadway a while back, or maybe it was even on Broadway, it was kind of funny to watch mothers pull their children up the aisles during the show because they bought tickets, they saw puppets on the poster, they thought it was going to be cute. They probably didn't see Lucy the Slut on the poster. They probably saw Trekkie or something. And so, oh boy, a show it might have a little adult content to be cute for the adults so they don't fall asleep, but it's an appropriate show for 7-year-olds. It's not. It's not. If you do any kind of research at all before you buy a $150 ticket to a Broadway show, right, you're going to realize that Avenue Q, they're using the F word within the first 5 minutes, and they're talking about all sorts of things that a 7-year-old has no business knowing at that point. And so I just thought it was amazing to find people who spent all this money on tickets, and suddenly they're dragging children up the aisle, saying, don't listen to the song about the internet, right? Don't listen to the song about everybody being a little bit racist. Be warned. Be warned of that. And be warned that if you know and love Avenue Q, it won't necessarily be, you'll have a nostalgic time, and you'll still get some laughs from the show, and you will still be absolutely delighted by the lyrics and the wordplay and the catchiness of the songs, and also some of the construction of the book. You know, it isn't just hanging a bunch of songs on this cute Sesame Street idea. It's like a review. It is a musical. So the construction still holds up. It's still a really terrific show. It just doesn't have that oomph, that extraordinary, like, I can't believe how wonderful this is feeling that it had when it first opened. But let's hear a piece of Avenue Q from around the time that it first opened. And this features our friend of the Daverhood, Stephanie D'Abruzzo, as well as the rest of the cast, with a song, speaking of, well, you can use this word, It Sucks to Be Me.
Morning, Brian. How's life?
Disappointing.
What's the matter?
When I was little, I thought I would be a big comedian on late night TV.
Oh,
But now I'm 32, and as you can see, I'm not. Oh well, it sucks to be me.
no.
It sucks to be me. It sucks to be broken, unemployed, and turning 33. It sucks to be
Well,
me.
you think your life sucks?
I think so.
Your problems aren't so bad. I'm kind of pretty and pretty damn smart.
You are.
Thanks. I like romantic things like music and art. And as you know, I have a gigantic heart. So why don't I have a boyfriend? Fuck, it sucks to be me.
Me too.
It sucks to be me.
It sucks to be me. It sucks to be Brian.
And Kate.
To not have a job. It sucks to be me.
So if that is your kind of humor, if that's the kind of Broadway writing that just puts a smile on your face and makes you happy, and you've never seen Avenue Q, go see Avenue Q. Anyway, it is just about 11 o'clock here in the Daverhood on Dave's Gone By. It's our 696th episode of the show. We're calling it 99% Me, because, you know, that was the thing of doing that 23andMe and wasting all that money on 23andMe to be told exactly what I knew, that all my heritage was from Russia, Poland, and I'm 99.4% Ashkenazic Jew. Duh. Yeah. Surprised it's not 99.8% with a margin of error of 2%. But anywho, yes, our episode here. To find out more about the program, davesgoneby.com. To contact me, you can send me an email, davesgoneby@aol.com, davesgoneby@aol.com. Get my Twitter feed, Radio Dave 2. And remember that if you go to the website, davesgoneby.com, our archives are there. You can listen to every show just about that we've ever done. And even we've been on video for a year and a half, so you can watch shows. We've archived them for free at any time. And we even have a separate archive of all the wonderful guests that we've had on the program. We didn't have a special guest today, but oh my gosh, the last couple of weeks, we had Jay Lenhart on the show, the bass player and musician, songwriter. We also had Nellie McKay, kind of last minute last week, and she turned out to be just wonderful. And terrific. Tom Jones, the guy who co-wrote The Fantastics. He was on the program just a couple of weeks ago, and all of that is in the archives, along with guests that we've had over the years for the past 16 and a half years that we've been on the air in some form or other. So yeah, man, go hear those interviews, go catch those shows. And speaking of people who have graced us with their presence on Dave's Gone By, we call them the Friends of the Daverhood, and we like to let you know what they've been up to. So yeah, the idea is, once someone's been on the show, maybe they've been in a Broadway show, or they've written a book, or put out an album, or what have you, we consider them friends. And maybe then they've gone on to do other cool stuff in their lives, and we want to let you know, hey, our friend of the Daverhood is up to this, check it out. And that's what we do every week on our Friends of the Daverhood. For example, Brooke Morabur has just released her new album. It's called Cry Like a Girl, and a video to go with that single. So go to her website for Brooke Morabur, Moribber. Want to remind you that this is the last weekend to catch a play called All Our Children at the Sheen Center off Broadway. Ethan McSweeney, our friend of the Daverhood, is directing that. On May 15th, 2019, so it's this week, a couple of days from now, the Albert Einstein College of Medicine's Women Division, will hold its 65th Spirit of Achievement Luncheon at the Rainbow Room. God, remember the Rainbow Room? Right, well, one of the honorees is Jamie DeRoy, the producer and also the host of that monthly cabaret show that she does. So congratulations, Jamie. Let's see, running now through one more week. If you're downtown or if you're in South Florida, you can see what Avi Hoffman has been coordinating down there called Yiddishkeit at the Betsy over in South Beach. It's panels, it's plays, it's all things Yiddish coordinated down, called Yiddishkeit at the Betsy, coordinated by Avi Hoffman. On Broadway, beautiful, the Carole King musical, which features a book by our friend Douglas McGrath. Also on Broadway, the marvelous musical Come From Away, co-written by friends Irene Sankoff and David Hine. That is at the Gerald Schoenfeld Theater. Tootsie, well, yeah, the musical that just won the New York Drama Critics Circle Award for Best Musical, co-written by David Yazbek, and Julie Holston, our other friend, is in the show. Speaking of people in the shows, Dakin Matthews is the judge in To Kill a Mockingbird at the Schubert, and Daniel Breaker is still playing Aaron Burr in Hamilton at the Richard Rodgers Theater. Want to let you know that playing every Monday at Birdland, it's Jim Caruso's cast party. So it's kind of like an open mic, but open mic for people in the Broadway community. Pretty cool. It's Jim Caruso's cast party Monday nights at Birdland. Gilbert Gottfried doing his amazing podcast on earwolf.com. Vicki Lawrence and Leslie Jordan are the co-stars of The Cool Kids on Fox TV. I'm wondering, I honestly don't know. I haven't heard much about that show. I don't know if it's been renewed or I need to zip that line. But anywho, Evan Seplow is the editor and founder of StageBuddy.com, a cool website to go if you want to know about New York nightlife. Gil Moon, back in Greeley, Colorado. He hosts 2 shows on KFKA Radio, including Senior Circle on Sunday mornings, and then Golden Years Theater on Sunday nights from 6 to midnight. And that's kind of cool. If you care about old-time radio, like the great Gildersleeves and Fibber McGee and Molly and Abbott and Costello on the radio, and all of that sort of thing, the dark, what is it, the shadow something? Yeah, he plays those classic old-time radio on KFK Radio, hosted by Gil Moon. Jeannie Lieberman is the editor of TheaterScene.com, of Theater Reviews. Let's see, what else? Catherine Russell, I just passed the marquee the other day. She is still appearing in Perfect Crime off-Broadway. She's been there since the show opened. That was 31 years ago. And of course, a big shout out to our friend Bob Cudmore, who does podcasts about upstate New York history at bobcudmore.com. And those, my friends, are the friends of the Daverhood. All right, well, it is just after 11 o'clock. I know we're supposed to run from 9 to 11, but, you know, you push the envelope here sometimes on Dave's Gone By in the Daverhood to do more cool stuff. And we got one more segment for you. And so let me explain about Storytime, if you're new to the show. A year and a half ago or so, I was at the service station having our brakes checked on our Subaru. And they had a pile of books and magazines and newspapers for people to poke through while waiting for the work to be done. Well, among them are your usual daily newspaper and auto magazines and home ec magazines, but they also had books for children, among them something called A Cow for Hansel, a 1967 book about a German lad in Lederhosen, really, who finally goes through all sorts of torments and perils to get a cow. And we ended up reading that in serialized form from beginning to end, week after week. And it became kind of fun. I mean, it would poke fun agate, but it was also kind of fun to read a book. And also I'm so busy in my life, I don't have time to create comic material of my own. I need other people to do the heavy lifting. So we've had other books that we've read, usually a lot shorter ones, in the months since then. So we've had one Little Bill book written by Bill Cosby. We had, what else? The Vegetable Friends book. We had Rabbi Saul do a whole book of Passover rules and regulations. That was great fun this year. And stuff like that. And there was a book about Bert and Ernie and their special relationship, speaking of Avenue Q. So all that going on, I figure time for another book, and time for another book that we can serialize. And maybe not just do a different book every week, but get into one. And this is a book that I remember the title of, because how could you not remember the title of this one? But I don't remember reading it as a child. And I know it's a whole series. It's Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle. Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle by Betty McDonald. Now, I know that I might be confusing Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle with another character whose books I did read and don't remember, called Mrs. Pickerel. Anybody remember Mrs. Pickerel books? Might pick up one of those later on. But this, no, is copyright 1957 by Betty McDonald, and it was renewed, she must have died, because it was re-renewed by Anne Elizabeth Evans and Joan Sidney Cale in 1983, and then the copyright illustrations were by Alexandra Bolger, or related to the illustrating person. Who illustrated it? I guess Betty McDonald, no, Alexandra Bolger was still alive many years later to renew the copyright on her illustrations of Hello, Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle. So, Potato, are you ready to be read to? Are you ready for, story time? That's my favorite part of the show, except Potato News. What you didn't do today, you asshole. All right, Potato, be nice, or I won't read the story to you. Oh, okay. All right, now just sit right there. Have just your hat on camera. Wondering if I could do anything. I'm going to put you on a top of a can of Spam. So let's see if that, there we go. I don't want you taking up too much there. So you can be right there as we do story time with Hello, Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle. Are you ready, Potato? Ready as I'll ever be. Okay. And by the way, this is by the author of Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle's Farm, Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle. Oh, so this is not the original. This is not the first Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle. This is already a sequel in the Piggle-Wiggle oeuvre, the canon of Piggle-Wiggle. Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle's Magic, and of course, Happy Birthday, Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle. So this is almost late into Piggle-Wiggledom by Betty McDonald, a Harper Trophy imprint. Let us begin. Hello, Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle. The Show-Off Cure, Chapter 1. Oh, I hope this will be worth it. It was a beautiful morning. A bluebird sat on a small branch in the flowering cherry tree and swayed gently back and forth. There he is. It's not blue. Do not adjust the colors on your computer. Imagine that this is blue. All right, here we go. A crocus pushed his golden head through the tender grass and blinked in the sudden sunlight. You want to be the crocus, Potato? Did I blink? Did you see my eyes move? I don't know, Potato. Mrs. Carmody hummed as she laid slices of bacon, I'm getting hungry now, in the black iron skillet. Boogie all night. Spring is my favorite time of the year, she said to Mandy the dog, who was lying in the kitchen doorway, scratching a flea and waiting to trip somebody. Oh, cool. I have relatives like that. Mrs. Carmody plugged in the toaster, got out the raspberry jam that and then went into the front hall and called upstairs to her husband, Jordan, breakfast. She's having hormone therapy. And to her little boy, Philip, are you up? Philip, who was 10 years old and still under the covers, called out sleepily, practically all dressed, Mom. Be right down. Constance, his sister, who was 11 3/4, yelled from the bathroom where she was testing how lipstick would look even when she was 13. Philip isn't even up, Mom. He won't be down for another 10 hours. Philip shouted, old spy, tattletale, bitch, whore. No, I just added those last two. Constance said, "Be quiet, little boy, you bore me." Mrs. Carmody called again, louder. "Ah, get out of bed this instant. Connie, wipe off that lipstick. Hurry, Jordan dear, while the toast is hot." She went back to the kitchen and gave the percolator a little shake to hurry it up. Then she walked over, stood by the open back door, breathing deeply of the fragrant early morning air. Her pleasant reverie was suddenly broken by Mr. Carmody, I guess he broke her wind, who came grumpily into the kitchen, tripped over Mandy, and stepped heavily into her water bowl, which was on the floor beside the stove. Mrs. Carmody grabbed the sink sponge and began wiping up the water. Mr. Carmody growled, "Well, that's certainly a nice morning greeting." Mrs. Carmody said, "Oh, Jordan dear, I'm so sorry. Did you get wet?" "Doesn't matter," said Mr. Carmody mournfully. Nothing matters anymore. Wow, existential angst in Hello, Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle. Who knew? "What do you mean, nothing matters anymore?" asked Mrs. Carmody as she squeezed out the sponge. "Oh, I like this part. Do it, do it." Drip, drip, drip. "Just that," said Mr. Carmody, sadly pouring almost the entire pitcher of cream onto his shredded wheat biscuit. "Are you sick?" asked Mrs. Carmody, peering anxiously at him. "No, I'm not sick," he said. "Or at least I'm not physically sick, just sick at heart." Mrs. Carmody buttered the toast, put the plates in to warm, stirred the eggs, lifted the bacon onto a paper towel to drain, checked the color of the coffee, refilled Mandy's water bowl, and then said, "What in the world are you talking about, Jordan? You don't make sense." "He makes sense to me," said Connie, flouncing into the kitchen. Flounce, flounce, flounce. "Because I feel the same way. I'm so ashamed I could die." You know, she's probably going to go to UNC North Carolina in a couple of years. "What in the world are you talking about?" said Mrs. Carmody. "Are you ready for your eggs, Jordan?" "I suppose so," said Mr. Carmody dolefully. Quickly, Mrs. Carmody took the plates out of the oven, divided the eggs into 4 equal portions, added a dash of paprika, laid on 4 strips of bacon and 2 pieces, this is so getting me so damn hungry, 2 pieces of toast, carried 2 of the plates to the table, and snapped them down in front of her husband and daughter. "Now," she said, folding her arms, "tell me what this is all about." Connie picked up a piece of bacon and began nibbling at it. "Well," she said, "if you really want to know." "I do," said her mother. She really doesn't, but she's being nice. "Well," Connie said, "the point is that Philip is ruining all our lives, and you won't face it." Ooh. "Ruining our lives? Philip?" said Mrs. Carmody. "Don't be ridiculous." "I'm not being ridiculous," said Connie. "Philip is such a disgusting little show-off, I'm ashamed to bring my friends home anymore. What about last night? He disgraced poor Daddy." Mrs. Carmody gazed at her daughter intently for a minute and then said, "Connie, you got lipstick again. Go upstairs and wash it off." "Oh, honestly," Connie sighed heavily, "every single girl in the whole United States of America wears lipstick but me. I'm just a freak, a poor freak with a disgusting little brother." "Yes, yes, I know," said her mother. "Get up and wash the lipstick off. There's time enough to be a lipstick lesbian later on in your life." When she was sure she could hear, I kind of added that part. When she was sure she could hear Connie's furious footsteps on the stairs, she turned to her husband and said, "Now, Jordan, dear, what is all this?" Mr. Carmody said, "Meg, Philip is an obnoxious little show-off. Last night was the worst I've ever seen him. And Bob Waltham is my most important client, and frankly, I wouldn't blame him if he never came into this house again." Oh, boy. "Oh, Jordan," said Mrs. Carmody, laughing. "Ha, ha, ha. Philip was just trying to be entertaining. Do you call putting a whole baked potato in his mouth entertaining?" "No, no, I do not. God." "Do you call drinking an entire glass of water without stopping, then choking and turning purple and spitting water all over the table entertaining? Do you call looking cross-eyed?" By the way, the second time cross-eyed has come up in the show. "Cross-eyed, touching his chin with his tongue wiggling his ears, standing on his head, reciting the alphabet backwards and forwards and sideways and upside down, entertaining? Well, I don't, and neither did Bob Waltham. Capital letters here. This is long before people shouting in their tweets and email messages. Let's put this over. Can you see that? How do I get this? There. There's those capital letters. Right there. Okay. Just proving it. Now, Jordan, said Mrs. Carmody, you know that Bob Waltham is a stuffy old bore. You've said so yourself. And after all, Philip is only 10. He's just a little boy. You shouldn't be so hard on him. You mean he shouldn't be so hard on me, said Mr. Carmody, angrily ripping a piece of bread in half. Meg, something has to be done about that boy now, today. Just then Philip came rattling down the stairs and skidded into the breakfast room. Hi, Dad. Hi, Mom, he said cheerfully. Morning, said Mr. Carmody grumpily. Good morning, Philip dear, said Mrs. Carmody. Philip sat down, grabbed the sugar bowl, and began dumping sugar on his shredded wheat biscuit. Not so much sugar, honey, said his mother. Philip added 2 more, heaping teaspoons of sugar, then dumped the rest of the pitcher of cream on his cereal. Looking brightly, eagerly at his father, he said, Hey, Dad, want to watch me put this whole shredded wheat biscuit in my mouth all at once? I do not, said his father. Not even if I whistle Dixie with it in my mouth? No, roared his father. Eat your breakfast, dear, said his mother, putting a fresh pitcher of cream on the table. What if I, Philip began. Stop talking, bellowed his father. Connie, who had come downstairs and was standing unnoticed in the doorway, said, What a repulsive little show-off. My gosh, Mother, can't you see how disgusting he is? My gosh, Mother, can't you see how disgusting he is? Mimicked Philip in a high, squeaky voice. I'm sorry. My gosh, Mother, can't you see how disgusting he is? I don't even know what I'm doing there. Shoot him, Mother! Kill him! Cut him up with a butcher knife. They would never put this in a modern book, by the way. Mommy, he embarrasses me in front of my stupid, ugly, giggling friends. Now, children, said Mrs. Carmody gently. Mr. Carmody glared around the table and said fiercely, I want absolute quiet! My gosh, Dad, what's the matter? Asked Philip. Are you sick or something? Yes, I'm sick or something, said Mr. Carmody, savagely jabbing a spoon into the raspberry jam. I'll get you an aspirin, said Philip, sliding out of his chair. I'll get 2 aspirins, and I'll carry them all the way downstairs. On my nose. Watch me. Sit still, shouted Mr. Carmody. Sit still and eat your breakfast and don't talk. Well, okay, said Philip, but you don't have to be so crabby. Be quiet, yelled his father. Philip gave him a reproachful look, sat down again, and began to eat his shredded wheat biscuit. Mrs. Carmody brought her plate and Philip's from the kitchen and sat down. She looked out the window at the pale pink cherry blossoms and the clear sky and the fat bluebird swaying on the branch. But she no longer felt happy. I knew that would come in handy at some point. She no longer felt happy. She took a sip of coffee, which was lukewarm, and looked around the breakfast table. Philip was eating busily, but the minute she looked at him, he grinned broadly and whispered, Hey, Mom, want to watch me balance my cocoa cup on my forehead? She smiled, shook her head, and motioned for him to be quiet. Even if it's clear full of boiling hot cocoa? She shook her head. Even if it has the spoon in it? She shook her head. What a bunch of crab patches, Philip said. Quiet! Bellowed the father. Philip reached for the jam dish and began sulkily emptying it onto his plate. When breakfast was at last over and everyone had left for work or school, Mrs. Carmody heated up the coffee, poured herself a cup, and sat down at the table to look at the morning paper. Just as she opened the paper, the corner of her eye caught a glimpse of something white on the floor under Philip's chair. She reached over and picked up a small folded piece of paper. Crumple, 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 crumple. Well, really more uncrumple. She opened the paper up, smoothed it out, and read, Dear Mrs. Carmody, I'm having a little difficulty with Philip. Will you please call me at your earliest convenience? Sincerely, Edith Periwinkle. Mrs. Carmody looked at her watch. It was 4 minutes to 9. Perhaps she could get Miss Periwinkle before the bell rang. She hurried into the hall and dialed the number of the school. Let's do this properly. Glad I have so many props here. Okay, and this is my deaf ear, which is the one to use for this. When Mrs. Periwinkle heard Mrs. Carmody's anxious, worried voice, she said, I didn't intend to worry you, Mrs. Carmody. It isn't anything serious. It is just that Philip has become quite show-off, said Mrs. Carmody. Well, yes, said Miss Periwinkle. I guess that is the right word. I also must admit that he is very entertaining, and his little schoolmates think he is very funny and laugh at everything he does. Unfortunately, he no longer confines his antics to recess and the schoolyard, so I have to take steps, which is why I wrote the note. Well, said Mrs. Carmody, I should have seen it coming, because we are having our problems with him at home, too. Have you any suggestions? Yes, I have, said Mrs. Periwinkle. I think you should call Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle. There we go. Finally got to her. You've heard of her, haven't you? I've heard the name, said Mrs. Carmody. Is she some sort of doctor? Oh, no, said Mrs. Periwinkle. She's just a very nice little woman who loves and understands children and has a very magic way of curing their bad habits. Her telephone is Vine Maple 1 2345. That's Vine Maple 1 2345. Remember, it's Vine Maple 1 2345. Order now. Just a minute while I get a pencil. Oh, she's still on the phone. Sorry. Please hold, said Philip's mother. Of course, she couldn't find a pencil, but she did finally find a broken green crayon with which she wrote down Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle's telephone number on the back of the gas bill. Mrs. Carmody's hand was shaking as she dialed the number, but Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle... Wait, okay, gotta do some prop humor here. Hold on. There we go. Excuse me. Her hand was shaking as she dialed the number. Vine Maple 1 2345. There we go. That was worth waiting for. Here we go. But Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle had such a warm, friendly voice that Mrs. Carmody got right over her nervousness and told her about Philip. Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle laughed and said, I got this phone again. Hold on. Thanks for holding. Isn't it a shame that children can't be all evened up? I mean, some are show-offs, and some are shy, and some are quiet, and some are noisy, and some laugh too much, and some cry too much. Oh, I could go on and on, but loud or quiet, shy or show-offy, timid or boisterous, children are wonderful, and I love them all. Totally a pedo. So do I, said Philip's mother, and actually, Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle, Philip's showing off doesn't bother me, but his daddy says he's obnoxious, and his sister Connie says he's disgusting. And this morning, his teacher, Miss Periwinkle, I think she's a lesbian, told me that he is getting out of hand. Well, said Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle, if it were only his older sister who complained about Philip, I would be inclined to let him work things out. But as long as Philip is annoying his daddy and Mrs. Periwinkle, who is one of the best fifth-grade teachers in the country, we better take steps. Take steps? Quavered Philip's mother. What do you mean by steps? Well, you put one foot in front of another and then another, and you go up or down. Those are steps, idiot. No, wait. Oh, it's very simple, said Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle. Have Philip come down after school, and I'll give him a bottle of show-off powder for the next few days. Sprinkle a little on him before meals, especially when you're having company, and just before he leaves for school in the morning, and I'm sure you won't have any more trouble. But what is this show-off powder? Will it hurt Philip? Is it FDA approved? How expensive is it? Answer the last question first, asked Mrs. Carmody fearfully. Show-off powder is guaranteed to be harmless, said Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle, but it will stop showing off. You see, it makes the show-off invisible. Invisible? Wailed Philip's mother. You mean I won't be able to see my own little boy? Not when he's showing off, said Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle. Man, this is a long first chapter. Nobody will be able to see him, but when he stops showing off and is normal, he'll come back into focus. Are you sure? Asked Philip's mother. Oh my, yes, said Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle. Now don't worry about it. Just send Philip up after school. I know that everything's going to be fine. Goodbye, and don't worry. But Mrs. Carmody did worry. She worried as she washed the breakfast dishes and tidying up the house. She worried as she made out the grocery list and sorted the laundry. But she worried the most when she was straightening up Philip's room. Well, why am I still telling this into the telephone? I'm getting a dial tone. It's annoying. Okay. What if this powder makes Philip disappear and then something goes wrong and he won't come back? She sobbed as she took 2 apple cores, 3 funny books, a slingshot, and an empty box of Smith Brothers cough drops out from under Philip's pillow. Philip's room was so messy. How messy was it? Philip's room was so messy. How messy was it? Philip's room. Oh, just fucking tell us. Sorry, Potato. It was so messy, and she was in there such a long time picking up and imagining terrible things that she finally decided not to send for the magic show-off powder. That old powder was far too dangerous to use on a sensitive, intelligent little boy like Philip. But anyway, Philip showing off was really very clever, and maybe someday he'd be on the stage. Then the front door crashed open. A loud voice yelled, Ma! Hey, Ma, where are you? And Philip was home from school. Mrs. Carmody rushed downstairs, and sure enough, there was Philip, very much alive and visible, sitting at the kitchen table, wolfing down gingerbread and milk. His back was towards his mother, but she could see that one sleeve was ripped out of the sweater. Philip, his mother said, what in the world happened to your sweater? Fell off my bike, Philip said, through a mouthful of gingerbread. Oh, sweetheart, his mother said, running to him. Did you hurt yourself? Not much, Philip said. Kind of tore my pants through and ripped one of my new school shoes. See? He held out one leg and showed his mother a pants leg ripped jaggedly to the knee. He held out the other leg and showed her his brown Oxford with a large tear over the instep. He also had a cut over his eye, a skinned place on his nose, blood on his chin, and a hemorrhoid. Oh, Philip, his mother said, you might have been killed. Were you hit by a car? Philip said. Some big boy push you? Gosh, no, Philip said. Well, what did happen? His mother asked. Oh, nothing. Philip drained his glass of milk. Can I have another piece of gingerbread, Mom? Certainly, said the mother. But first I want to know about the accident with your bicycle. Well, Philip said, if you really want to know, I was sitting in the basket of my bike, riding down Mission Hill backwards, singing Polly Wolly Doodle, which so many kids do nowadays, And I saw the bread truck coming, and I guess I didn't turn soon enough, and I ran into the Wallace's iron fence. I caught my shoe on the pedal and my pants on a picket, and I hit my eye on the handlebars, and I don't know what else happened. But boy, you should have heard the kids and that old bread man laugh. No doubt, said his mother dryly. Now you go upstairs and change your trousers and your shoes. Bring me the trousers to mend, because, moms still mend their trousers. Take the torn shoe down to Mr. Risotto and ask him if he can put a patch on it. And on your way home, stop at Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle's. She has something for me. You know where Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle lives? Sure I do, said Philip. I watch her in the window when she undresses at night, and we play down there all the time. What's she got for you? Never you mind, said the mother. Just don't forget to stop by there. Now, scoot. A little after 5:30, Mrs. Carmody happened to look out the kitchen window and saw Philip coming up the drive, followed by a crowd of children. On his head, he was carrying his shoe. Balanced on the toe of the shoe was a small jar. Sitting on the jar was a little green frog. When Philip saw his mother's face at the window, he called out, Hey, Ma, look at it, watch me. I'm going to jump over the wheelbarrow with all this stuff on my head. Philip, don't, his mother called, but he couldn't hear her, and she watched horrified as he made a run for the wheelbarrow, caught his foot in the garden hose, fell backwards into the rhododendron bush. The small jar from Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle flew up in the air and landed on the concrete with a crash. Mrs. Carmody dashed out, knelt down, and began picking little pieces of broken glass out of the spilled white powder. Having extricated himself from the rhododendron bush, Philip said, Gee, Mom, sorry I busted it. Didn't mean to. Don't talk. His mother said briskly. Go in and get me a clean white envelope out of my desk and the spatula off the stove. Hurry! Because this is the kind of family that would keep a white powder in a plain white envelope. While Philip was gone, Mrs. Carmody carefully pushed the white powder into a little mound and held her hand over it to keep the wind from blowing it away. When Philip brought her the envelope and the spatula, she scooped up all the powder into the envelope, all but about half a teaspoon. This she carefully lifted into the palm of her hand and blew at Philip. What do you think you're doing? He said, rubbing his eyes and coughing. Something very wise, I'm sure, said his mother. Just then Mr. Carmody's car turned into the driveway. Must be a magic trick, because it was a car and now it turned into a driveway. Immediately, Philip jumped into the wheelbarrow and yelled, Watch me, Dad! I'm going to stand on my head in the wheelbarrow. I'm going to stand on my head and say the alphabet backwards. Mrs. Carmody looked at the wheelbarrow, but it was suddenly empty. There was no one there. Not only that, but there was no sound either. Mr. Carmody got out of the car and said, Where's Philip? He was here just a moment ago. Yes, he was, said Mrs. Carmody, smiling a secret smile. Well, I want him to put the hose and that wheelbarrow in the garage, said Mr. Carmody. I'll tell him, said Mrs. Carmody. He should be back in a minute or so. She and Mr. Carmody went back into the house and closed the door. Philip, quite red in the face from standing on his head in the wheelbarrow and hoarse from reciting the alphabet backwards and forwards, called after them, Hey, Mom, Dad, look at me! But they didn't even glance at him. They acted as if they did not even hear him. Hey, you kids, look at me, he called to the children who had followed him home from Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle's, but nobody answered. They just turned and walked out of the yard. Suddenly, he righted himself, climbed out of the wheelbarrow, and went into the kitchen. How come you and Dad didn't watch my trick? He asked his mother, who was busy at the stove. She said, We don't see you doing any tricks. Now, go away, put away the hose and the wheelbarrow and sweep up that broken glass. Dinner will be ready in about 5 minutes, and it's your favorite. You mean frankfurters and baked beans and brown bread? Oh my goodness, we actually have the prop for this, ladies and gentlemen. Frankfurters, and baked beans, here it is. Beanie weenie, that's what he's going to be eating, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, said his mother. Hot diggity, said Philip. And in fact, low down on the ingredients list of Beanie Weenie is something called hot diggity, as opposed to medium diggity, which is made by the Sriracha people. Reaching into the broom closet, his mother took out the broom and dustpan and handed them to him. Here, she said, very relieved that he was visible again, sweep up that glass first. Philip took the broom, held it over his shoulders, and began making loud zooming noises. Hey, Mom, he yelled, watch me. I'm a jet plane. Vroom, vroom. I'll go for a takeoff. I'm a little airplane, meow. I'm a little airplane, meow, meow. I'm a little airplane. Okay, that's really good, Potato. Thank you. Little Jonathan Richman moment there. So, yes, he's a jet plane. Watch me. But he began to disappear, and with takeoff, he was gone. Humming contentedly, his mother took the lid off the steamer and poked the brown bread. And by the way, there are a couple of illustrations in the book. So here's the family. That's Dad, who's got sort of a. This is before they all started giving people weird haircuts. Well, what's with Dad's hair there? What's with like the lobotomy shaving scar and the rest of the hair on his head? They got the mother. She looks like she's wearing a Shabbos wig. That's either him or the girl with the lipstick. And there, of course, is Philip waving his arms and behaving kind of like I did when I was a kid. We got a comment from Joyce here. What a story! Including, I think there's a Frankfurter in there, which is most appropriate. And by the way, welcome to Sandy and Wayne and Nancy and all the other folks. I'm trying to finish up this chapter. It's just got a little more to go. At dinner, he disappeared 3 times. The first time was when he turned his chair around, crouched down on the seat, and said, Look at me! I'm a big gorilla in a cage! Toss me a banana, somebody! That's racist. He disappeared just after toss me. Mr. Carmody almost jumped out of his chair. Meg, he yelled at Mrs. Carmody. The boy's gone. There must be a trap door somewhere under the chair. Don't get hysterical, Jordan, said Mrs. Carmody. He'll be back. And he was, in about 2 minutes. The next morning after he was dressed, Philip climbed up on the banister and yelled at Connie, Hey, Connie, Look it, I'm sliding down the banister frontwards, sitting up. I know you like to slide up and down the banister for some reason, without panties. Not sure what's going on with that, but here we go. Then he disappeared and didn't come back into focus until until everybody else had finished breakfast and his poached eggs were quite cold. His mother noticed he had a large purple bump over his left eye. As he slid into his chair, Philip said, "Nobody in the whole darn family cares what happens to me. My whole skull is probably cracked, but a lot you care." "Quiet!" roared Mr. Carmody. Mrs. Carmody said, "Eat your eggs, dear. It's getting late." As she spoke to him, she leaned over and sprinkled some of the show-off powder in his hair. Turning around and giving her a suspicious look, Philip said, "What you doing to my hair, Mom?" "Just smoothing it down," said his mother, smiling dreamily. During geography, while Miss Periwinkle was standing with her back to the class, drawing a map on the blackboard, Philip stood on his seat, wiggled his ears, looked cross-eyed, looked like an ape, and scratched himself, all surefire tricks for making his classmates giggle. Nobody laughed at all. In fact, nobody even looked at him because he wasn't there. During recess, he put a whole package of bubble gum in his mouth and blew a bubble bigger than his head. But even though the children were all right around him, nobody pointed or laughed or said one thing, because, of course, they could not see him. Then the bubble burst and got Philip's hair and face all gummy. Then the children laughed because he was back in focus again. But Philip didn't think it was funny at all, especially when the school nurse rubbed his face and neck and head with benzene, oh God, which burned. After school, he didn't feel very funny. His head hurt, and so did his elbow as he rode his bike home, sitting on the seat in the ordinary way. Bobby Westover and Billy Markle rode beside him, and they talked quite solemnly about baseball, except once when Billy rode fast down Mission Hill with no hands, yelling, "Help, help, I'm out of control! My engine's conked out, my landing gear's stuck! Call the crash crew!" Bobby and Philip laughed like anything until Mrs. Allen backed out of her garage and almost hit Billy, who couldn't stop and ran into a tree. Mrs. Allen turned pure white and shook and was very mad. She said, "Billy Markle, I'm going to call your mother up and tell her what a little show-off you are. You almost got killed, and you almost wrecked my car, and you're practically giving me a nervous breakdown." Billy, who was crying, said, "Well, look at me. My shirt's torn, and my nose is bleeding, and my bike's wrecked." Mrs. Allen said, "Go into the kitchen. I'll fix you up, but don't bleed all over my clean linoleum." Bobby and Philip called goodbye to Billy. Bobby and Philip called goodbye to Billy, but he didn't hear them. As they rode down the hill around the corner toward Philip's house, Philip said, "Poor dumb Billy. Huh, what a show-off. Wah, wah." Ladies and gentlemen, that is chapter 1 of the delightful Hello, Mrs. Piggle-Wiggle, written by Betty McDonald back in 1957. A lot of fun, actually. I would have enjoyed this book if I didn't read it back in the day. But anyway, yeah, we're going to continue with this. We're going to do more of Storytime not next week. We're actually going to be taking a week off in the Daverhood. But we're going to be back towards the end of the month with a cool special guest. And also, we will have our theater-related shows. And I'm trying to figure out how to do the Tony shows yet, so I'm not giving a whole lot of information about that at this point. But hang here and always check the website. You go check the website now, Potato. Okay. Look at me, I'm showing off. Look, I can stand on my head. I can recite the Hebrew alphabet. Aleph, Beth, Gimel. I can talk about potatoes and drink ketchup. He disappeared because I sprinkled a special spud powder in his hair. See? Well, on his hat anyway. So yeah, to find out more about this program, both what's happening upcoming and also to hear and see older episodes of Dave's Gone By, just go to davesgoneby.com. DAVESGONEBY. davesgoneby.com. That is also the place where you can see pictures of the show, the history of the program, listen to our first episode, which we did on late night, well, medium late night radio, terrestrial radio for an hour back in 2002. Our 5th show's up there, like our 25th show, dozens, hundreds, literally hundreds of shows are there for free to download or stream on your computer. And not only that, we also have that special archive just of all the guests who've been on the program. We've separately archived the skits that we've done, like our, remember the, was it the Wretched Pun of Destiny? We've got about 50 of those. So much fun right on the website. Also want to let you know that, I got a message from my wife, never throw a potato. Okay, I apologize for that. You know, if you throw a potato too hard and it dies, and you go to court and they find you guilty, you could fry. Okay, anywho, I do want to let you know, I keep forgetting to mention another website, DaveLefkowitz.org. DaveLefkowitz.org. Here, I'll hold that up for you. DaveLefkowitz.org. That is the place to read my stuff, man. It's going to take years, but I'm taking all this crap that I've written over the past 40, 50 years, and I'm trying to put it all in one place. All the magazine articles I've written, the interviews I've done, the plays I've written, the songs I've written, all that stuff has one repository, and it's davelefkowitz.org. So yeah, if you have an afternoon free, you want to read one of my comic plays or one of my funny essays, or I've written about 200 songs, most of them filthy and disgusting, davelefkowitz.org is the place to find all of that. And some of my theater reviews too. We got a couple of hundred of those on the website, davelefkowitz.org. Do give it a look. But davesgoneby.com is the regular site for the radio show. Also right here, get your friends, get your enemies, get your relatives to like and follow us on Facebook. Dave's Gone By is our Facebook page. And of course, if you don't want to email me, davesgoneby@aol.com, you can message me anytime right here on the Facebook page. So I certainly want to thank all the folks who have given me comments and given me thumbs up and hearts during the program. Thanks for checking in fairly late in the show. People like Claudia and Patty and Tony and Michael and George and Jeff and David and Wayne and Sandy and Lisa, who said, hi, I'm up late because she's out in Colorado. So we start the show 7 a.m. Colorado time. You know what, Lisa? You missed the first part of the show? Check tomorrow, or by Monday, we'll have the show up online. You can watch it all then. And then Nancy also, and Joyce and Gregory, welcome to Gregory, and Jolinda, who just tuned in. Thanks so much to all of you for joining us every week in the Daverhood. So here's the deal. May 18th, next week, there will not be a show. There's something I have to go and do. But the week after that, we are expecting to do a new episode of Dave's Gone By. And then, of course, we've got a Tony show coming, whether it's the first weekend in June or we do it right up against the Tony Awards ceremony that Sunday. Not sure yet. I'll keep you posted. Anyway, have a great week. I guess that's all there is to say. I do want to give a shout out. I want to give a thank you so much to my darling and adorable wife, Joyce. Hold on, let me just, who is, of course, the mother to our beloved dog who is sleeping right by us, mother to all our potatoes and a couple of chickens that we have. And believe me, he keeps us up at night with this. We got a frog here too. We have a couple of hypnotized chickens. We have the eyeball from last week. We have a couple of poop emoji thing. Yeah, we got all that crap here. Anyway, she's mom to all of that. So happy Mother's Day to you, my wonderful wife, Joyce. Happy Mother's Day to my own mom, who has been so great while we've been staying here in New York for a couple of months now, and will be staying for a couple more weeks. So thank you so much to my mom. Happy Mother's Day to you. I love you so much. Happy Mother's Day to my mother-in-law. And wish I could go see you tomorrow. It was great seeing you a couple of weeks ago, and certainly we'll see you again. And health and happiness to all of the mothers in my life, and my Aunt Esther and my Aunt Bonnie and my cousins who are mothers, and my cousins who aren't mothers. And I have a couple of cousins who are mothers themselves. Anyway, happy Mom's Day to all of you. And a very happy weekend and a happy week to you. I'll see you in 2 weeks with a brand new episode of Dave's Gone By. Everybody needs a bit of motherly love and gone by.
Motherly love. Forget about the brotherly and otherly love. Motherly love is just a thing for you. You know your mother's gonna love you till you don't know what to do.
Yes, indeed. And that's the show for this week, number 796. Remember to check the website, davesgoneby.com. If you want to hear parts of it over or share it with people that you know, or Facebook generally saves the video as well. So literally 10 minutes after the show, you can kind of scroll down and watch it over, or get your friends to watch and like and follow us on the website. Anyway, have a great one. Happy Mama's Day and gone by again.